The Boring Daily Life of an Eiffel Tower Maintenance Worker, 1985. It is 4:47 in the morning. The city of Paris is still dark. In a small apartment in the 15th arrondissement, Jean-Claude Mercier's alarm clock begins its quiet buzzing. He does not jolt awake. He never does. After 17 years of the same schedule, his body knows the rhythm before the alarm even sounds. He rises slowly. Puts on his blue work coveralls, the same coveralls he has worn, washed, and worn again for the past 3 years. The fabric is soft now, broken in. Comfortable. The coveralls are a specific shade of blue, chosen decades ago to complement the tower's iron without clashing. Not that many people notice such details. Jean-Claude makes coffee. Strong. Black. 2 sugars. He drinks it standing at his kitchen window, looking out toward where he knows the tower stands, though he cannot see it yet in the darkness. Somewhere out there, 7,000 tons of iron wait for him. Wait for all of them. The tower is always waiting. By 5:15, he is walking to the metro station. His lunch is packed, always the same, a baguette with ham, a thermos of more coffee, an apple. He has packed this same lunch for so many years that his hands move automatically, reaching for items without thought. The baguette goes in first. Then the thermos. Then the apple, wrapped in paper to keep it from bruising. The metro is nearly empty at this hour. Jean-Claude sits in his usual spot, 3rd car, left side, the seat by the window. He does not read. He does not sleep. He simply sits, watching the darkness of the tunnel slide past, broken occasionally by the lights of stations where almost no one boards. At Trocadero, he emerges. And there it is. The Eiffel Tower, dark against the slowly lightening sky. Magnificent. Ordinary. Both at once. Jean-Claude has seen this view 6 days a week for 17 years. He will see it again tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. He crosses the plaza. His footsteps echo. He is not the first to arrive. Marcel's bicycle is already locked at the staff entrance, but he is early, as always. Routine matters. Routine is everything. Inside the base of the tower, in the small staff room that tourists never see, Jean-Claude signs the logbook. The logbook is bound in brown leather, worn smooth by thousands of signatures. He writes the date, 15 Avril 1985. He writes his name. He writes the time, 5:42. His handwriting is the same as it was yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Neat. Consistent. Reliable. The logbook contains entries going back decades. Maintenance workers signing in. Signing out. Recording the weather. Recording minor incidents, a stuck elevator, a loose bolt, a section of railing that needs attention. Nothing dramatic ever happens in this logbook. That is precisely the point. Drama is not wanted here. Drama means something has gone wrong. Marcel is already in the break room, drinking his own coffee. They nod to each other. They do not need to speak. They have worked together for 9 years. Everything that needs to be said has already been said long ago. At 6 a.m. exactly, their supervisor, Monsieur Rousseau, arrives. He is 63 years old and has worked on the tower for 41 years. He has been arriving at 6 a.m. for all 41 of those years. He will continue arriving at 6 a.m. until he retires in 2 years, and everyone already knows this because he mentions it at least once a week. Monsieur Rousseau reviews the assignment board. The tower requires constant attention. Not exciting attention. Boring attention. The kind of attention that prevents disaster through sheer, persistent routine. Today, Jean-Claude is assigned to the first platform. Section C, Painting Detail. The Eiffel Tower is repainted entirely, top to bottom, every 7 years. 60 tons of paint are used for each complete repainting. The work never truly stops. By the time the painters finish the top, the bottom sections are already beginning to show wear again, and the cycle must begin anew. It is like painting a very, very slow bridge that never ends. The paint is not a single color, though from a distance it appears so. It is 3 shades of brown, graduated to appear uniform to the eye below. The darkest shade at the bottom, gradually lighter toward the top. This technique accounts for the way light and atmosphere affect perception from the ground. Most tourists never notice this. They assume the tower is simply one color. It is not. Jean-Claude gathers his supplies. A scraper. A wire brush. A small bucket of paint. A brush. Safety equipment. Everything is checked twice. Once by him, once by Monsieur Rousseau. This is the rule. Has been the rule since before Jean-Claude arrived. Will be the rule long after he is gone. At 6:47, he begins climbing. There are 1,665 steps from ground level to the top of the Eiffel Tower. Jean-Claude will not climb all of them today. He only needs to reach the first platform, which is 73 meters above the ground. But still, he climbs slowly. There is no rush. There is never a rush. His boots ring on the iron steps. The sound echoes in the empty tower. Soon, the elevators will start running. Soon, the first tourists will arrive. But right now, in this moment before dawn, the tower belongs to the maintenance workers. It is theirs. Quiet. Still. Patient. At the first platform, Jean-Claude sets down his bucket. He stretches. His knees ache slightly, they always do on cold mornings, and April mornings are still cold. He ignores the ache. He has been ignoring it for 3 years now. Eventually, it will become something he cannot ignore, but that day is not today. He looks out over Paris. The city is waking now. Lights appearing in windows. Cars beginning to move on the streets far below. From up here, everything seems small. Manageable. Quiet. The iron beneath his hand is cold. In summer, this same iron will be warm, almost hot. The tower expands in the heat, up to 6 inches taller on the hottest days. In winter, it contracts. Breathing, in its way. Growing and shrinking with the seasons. Alive, though not living. Present, though not conscious. Jean-Claude kneels beside Section C, Panel 47. This is his assignment for the day. Panel 47 is approximately 2 meters square. It will take him most of the morning to prepare it properly. Scraping away the old paint. Cleaning the surface. Checking for any signs of rust or metal fatigue. Applying the first coat of new paint. The work is meticulous. Boring. Essential. He begins scraping. The sound is rhythmic. Scrape. 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 The old paint comes away in small flakes, drifting down through the ironwork, disappearing toward the ground below. He does not think about where they land. He simply scrapes. This is the work. Years ago, when he first started, Jean-Claude used to think about many things while he worked. He would daydream. Wonder about his life. Question his choices. But somewhere along the way, the work itself became a kind of meditation. The repetition. The routine. The simple, clear purpose of each task. Scrape. 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 The sun is rising now. Light spilling across the rooftops of Paris, touching the Seine, illuminating the city in shades of gold and gray. Jean-Claude glances up occasionally, noting the light, then returns to his work. Panel 47 requires attention. That is all that matters right now. By 8:15, Jean-Claude has scraped clean approximately 1/3 of panel 47. His hands move steadily. The wire brush follows the scraper, removing the finest particles of old paint, preparing the surface. This is important work, though no one will ever see it. The preparation matters more than the painting itself. A poor surface means the new paint will fail prematurely. And failure is not acceptable. Below, he can hear the first elevator beginning its ascent. The machinery hums, a sound so familiar he barely registers it anymore. The Eiffel Tower has 5 elevators, each traveling thousands of journeys every day. By the end of a single year, these elevators will have collectively traveled a distance equivalent to 2.5 times around the Earth. The cables are inspected weekly. The mechanisms are maintained daily. Nothing is left to chance. The first tourists are arriving now. Jean-Claude can hear their voices drifting up from below, excited, amazed, speaking in languages he sometimes recognizes and often does not. English, German, Japanese, Spanish. They have come from around the world to see this tower. They will look up at the ironwork and take photographs and feel wonder. Jean-Claude feels no wonder. He feels satisfaction. The quiet satisfaction of knowing that every rivet, every beam, every painted surface exists in good condition because people like him show up at 5:47 in the morning and scrape old paint off panel 47. There are 2,500,000 rivets holding the Eiffel Tower together. 2.5 million small metal fasteners, each one driven by hand when the tower was constructed between 1887 and 1889. Jean-Claude has never counted them himself. He trusts the number because it is recorded in the official documentation, maintained in the tower's archive. But he has certainly examined thousands of them over his 17 years. Checking for looseness. For corrosion. For any sign of fatigue. He has found exactly 7 rivets that needed attention in 17 years. 7 out of 2.5 million. This statistic tells him something important. The men who built this tower knew what they were doing. At 9:30, Jean-Claude pauses for his first break. This is scheduled. Morning break is always at 9:30. Has been for decades. Will be tomorrow. Will be next week. Will be next year. He sits on a small folding stool that he carries with him, opens his thermos, and pours half a cup of coffee. It is still warm. Not hot anymore, but warm enough. He drinks it slowly, looking out over the city. The wind is picking up slightly. He can feel the tower swaying, just barely, just slightly, but it is there. On very windy days, the top of the Eiffel Tower can sway as much as 7 centimeters. Not enough for most people to notice. Not enough to cause concern. The tower was designed to move. Rigidity would be dangerous. Flexibility keeps it standing. Gustave Eiffel, the tower's designer, understood wind. He understood forces and stress and the way structures needed to breathe with the elements rather than fight against them. This is why the tower has stood for 96 years and will stand for 96 more, and 96 after that. Jean-Claude finishes his coffee. Precisely 8 minutes have passed. Break time is 10 minutes, but Jean-Claude never uses all 10. 8 minutes is enough. He returns the thermos to his bag, stands, stretches his back, and returns to panel 47. The wire brush again. Working in small circles, ensuring every millimeter of surface is properly prepared. His hands know the motion. His muscles know the rhythm. This is not thinking work. This is doing work. And in the doing, there is a kind of peace. A tour group passes nearby on the platform. The guide is explaining something about the tower's construction, gesturing enthusiastically. The tourists are nodding, taking photos, pointing at things. Jean-Claude is 3 meters away, but they do not see him. He is part of the tower itself, invisible, essential, ignored. This does not bother him. He prefers it this way. By 10:45, the surface preparation is complete. Panel 47 is ready for paint. But Jean-Claude does not paint yet. First, he must wait for Monsieur Rousseau to inspect the work. This is protocol. Has been protocol since the beginning. One person prepares, another checks, a third paints. Separation of duties. Quality control. The boring bureaucracy that prevents disaster. He radios down. His radio is old, heavy, reliable. The newer models are smaller, but the tower's maintenance department sees no reason to replace equipment that still functions. Panel 47, Section C, ready for inspection, he says into the handset. The radio crackles. Monsieur Rousseau's voice, arriving in 15 minutes. Jean-Claude sits again. Waits. Waiting is part of the work. He does not mind waiting. He watches the tourists. Watches the city. Watches the clouds moving slowly across the sky. The tower's paint color has changed many times over the decades. When first constructed, the tower was red-brown. Then it was painted ochre-yellow. Then yellow-brown. Now, since 1968, it has been Eiffel Tower brown, a specific color mixed exclusively for this structure. 75 liters of paint are mixed to this exact specification every week. The formula is recorded in a locked cabinet in Monsieur Rousseau's office. Only 3 people know it by heart. Monsieur Rousseau is one of them. When he retires in 2 years, someone else will memorize it. The color must continue. Monsieur Rousseau arrives at 11:02. He is carrying his own inspection kit, a magnifying glass, a small metal probe, a notebook. He examines panel 47 in silence, running his fingers over the surface, checking for any remaining paint flakes, any rough spots, any imperfections. Jean-Claude stands aside. Waits. He knows the work is good. He always knows. But the inspection must happen anyway. After 4 minutes, Monsieur Rousseau nods. Acceptable, he says. He makes a note in his notebook, the date, the time, the panel number, Jean-Claude's name. Then he marks the panel with a small piece of chalk, a check mark. This means it is approved for painting. Monsieur Rousseau leaves. Jean-Claude returns to work. Now comes the painting itself. He opens the small bucket, the paint is thick, perfectly mixed, the exact shade required. He dips his brush, wipes the excess on the bucket's edge, and applies the first stroke. The paint goes on smoothly. Evenly. Jean-Claude's brushstrokes are consistent, each one overlapping the last by exactly the right amount to prevent streaking. He learned this technique in his first week, 17 years ago. His hands have repeated it thousands of times since. The muscle memory is absolute. The work is monotonous. Deeply, profoundly monotonous. Dip brush. Wipe excess. Stroke. 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 Dip brush. Wipe excess. Stroke. 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 Jean-Claude's mind is quiet. He thinks of nothing in particular. The river below. The clouds above. His daughter's birthday next week. The way the light falls on the wet paint, making it gleam before it dries to matte. By 12:30, he has completed the first coat on 2/3 of panel 47. It is time for lunch. He descends to the break room. Marcel is already there, along with 3 other workers, Philippe, André, and the new man whose name Jean-Claude keeps forgetting. They eat in comfortable near silence. Someone mentions the weather. Someone else mentions a football match. The conversation is minimal, pleasant, unimportant. Jean-Claude eats his baguette. Drinks his coffee. Eats his apple. The apple is slightly bruised despite the paper wrapping. This happens sometimes. He eats it anyway. Lunch is 30 minutes. Exactly 30 minutes. At 1 o'clock, Jean-Claude is climbing again, back to the first platform, back to panel 47. The afternoon light is different from the morning light. Warmer. Softer. The paint looks slightly different in this light, though the color is the same. Jean-Claude knows this is an illusion of perception. The paint does not change. Only the light changes. He continues painting. Dip. Wipe. Stroke. 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 A child on the platform points at him and says something to her mother. The mother glances over, smiles vaguely, and turns back to the view. Jean-Claude is not the view. He is maintenance. Background. Infrastructure. This is appropriate. This is correct. The tower is the thing that matters. Jean-Claude is simply keeping it standing. By 3 o'clock, the first coat is complete. Panel 47 is covered entirely in fresh paint. It will need to dry for 24 hours before the second coat can be applied. Tomorrow, Jean-Claude will be assigned a different panel. Or perhaps he will inspect elevator cables. Or check for loose bolts on the second platform. The assignment board will tell him. For now, he cleans his brush. Carefully. Thoroughly. The bristles must be completely paint-free, or they will be ruined. He uses mineral spirits, working the solvent through the bristles, wiping them clean, checking for any remaining paint. This takes 12 minutes. It always takes 12 minutes. At 3:30, he descends. His workday is not quite over, there is equipment to store, paperwork to complete, the final logbook entry to make. But the main work is done. Panel 47 is painted. Tomorrow, someone else will inspect it. If it passes inspection, it will receive its second coat the day after. If it does not pass, Jean-Claude will scrape it clean and begin again. It will pass. Jean-Claude's work always passes. At 3:47, Jean-Claude reaches the ground level. His legs are tired, not exhausted, but tired in the familiar way they are tired every day. In 17 years, he has climbed the equivalent of Mount Everest 4 times over, simply by walking up and down the tower's internal staircases. He read this statistic once in a staff bulletin. It seemed impossible. Then he did the mathematics himself one evening and discovered it was true. He does not feel like someone who has climbed Everest 4 times. He feels like someone who climbs stairs. Which is what he is. In the equipment room, he stores his brush in its designated slot. The brushes are arranged by size on a pegboard, each one hanging in its proper place. This organization system has existed since 1932. 53 years of brushes hanging in the same configuration. When a brush wears out, it is replaced with an identical one, hung in the same spot. The system continues. Jean-Claude fills out his daily work report. The form is simple: date, time started, time finished, location, task, materials used, outcome, any issues encountered. He writes, 15 Avril 1985. 6:47 to 15:30. Platform 1, Section C, Panel 47. Surface preparation and first coat application. Paint, Eiffel Tower brown, 1.2 liters. Outcome, satisfactory. Issues, none. There are never issues. If there were issues, they would be resolved before the report was written. Issues do not accumulate at the Eiffel Tower. They are addressed immediately, documented, and prevented from recurring. The filing cabinet containing these reports goes back to 1923. 62 years of daily work reports, each one recording the small, incremental maintenance that keeps the tower standing. Occasionally, historians request access to these files. They are always disappointed. There is nothing dramatic in them. Just decades of satisfactory outcomes and issues, none. At 4:15, Jean-Claude signs out in the logbook. His signature matches his morning signature, neat, consistent, unremarkable. The tower receives approximately 3 million visitors per year. 3 million people pass through its gates, ride its elevators, climb its stairs, and take their photographs. None of them sign a logbook. Jean-Claude signs it twice daily, 6 days per week, 50 weeks per year. His signature appears in this book over 3,000 times. This matters to no one but him. He changes out of his coveralls in the small locker room. His street clothes are folded neatly on the shelf where he left them this morning: gray trousers, a blue button-down shirt, a brown cardigan. He dresses slowly. There is no rush. There is never a rush. Marcel is at the sink, washing his hands with the orange pumice soap they keep for removing paint. Same time tomorrow, he asks, though he knows the answer. Same time, Jean-Claude confirms. This is their only conversation of the day. It is enough. Jean-Claude exits through the staff entrance at 4:28. The plaza is crowded now, tourists everywhere, moving in currents and eddies, flowing toward the tower, away from it, around it. He walks through them like water through stones, noticed by no one. The afternoon light makes the tower glow. From this angle, looking up, the structure seems impossibly tall. 330 meters from base to antenna tip. For 41 years after its construction, it was the tallest man-made structure in the world. Then the Chrysler Building surpassed it in 1930. This bothered some people. It did not bother the tower. The tower simply continued being exactly what it was: 330 meters of iron lattice, standing. Jean-Claude passes a tour guide explaining to a group that the tower was only meant to be temporary. It was built for the 1889 World's Fair, the guide says in accented English. It was supposed to be dismantled after 20 years. But it proved too useful. This is true. The tower was saved by radio. The antenna at its summit became essential for telegraphic communication, and later for radio broadcasts. Military communications during the First World War. The tower, built as a temporary celebration of engineering, became permanent through pure utility. Jean-Claude finds this satisfying. Things that are useful persist. Things that are merely beautiful fade away. At the metro station, he descends underground. The evening trains are more crowded than the morning ones. He stands, holding the pole, swaying gently as the train moves through the tunnels. Around him, people talk, read newspapers, stare at nothing. Jean-Claude stares at nothing. His mind is quiet. The tower is still in his body somehow. The feel of iron under his hands. The smell of paint and metal. The endless repetition of brushstrokes. He will carry it home with him, and it will fade during the evening, and tomorrow morning he will return and it will fill him again. This is the rhythm. This is the life. At his station, he emerges back into daylight. The small shops on his street are closing, the bakery, the tobacco, the pharmacy. Madame Renaud is pulling in the rack of newspapers from outside her shop. She nods to Jean-Claude. He nods back. They have been neighbors for 12 years and have never had a conversation beyond these nods. This is a comfortable arrangement. In his apartment, Jean-Claude removes his shoes at the door. His wife, Marie, is in the kitchen, preparing dinner. The smell of chicken roasting. Potatoes. Rosemary. "How's the tower?" she asks, the same question she asks every evening. "Still standing," he replies, the same answer he gives every evening. Marie smiles. This is their small joke, repeated so many times it has become ritual rather than humor. But there is affection in it. Familiarity. Jean-Claude washes his hands at the kitchen sink. Even after washing at the tower, there are traces of paint around his fingernails. There are always traces of paint. His hands have not been completely clean in 17 years. Dinner is at 7 o'clock, as it always is. They eat at their small table by the window. Marie talks about her day. She works at a bookshop, and there are always small stories about customers, about inventory, about the minutiae of retail. Jean-Claude listens, nods, asks small questions. This is pleasant. Marie's work is so different from his. Her days are filled with variety, different customers, different books, different conversations. His days are filled with sameness. He does not envy her variety. She does not envy his sameness. They have chosen correctly for themselves. After dinner, Jean-Claude sits in his chair by the window and opens the newspaper. He reads about politics, about the economy, about events in distant countries. The world is large and complicated and full of change. The tower is not large, not compared to the world. And it is not complicated, it is simply iron and rivets and paint. And it does not change. It stands. It has stood for 96 years. It will stand for 96 more. On average, the tower is struck by lightning 5 times per year. The iron structure acts as a lightning conductor, channeling the electricity safely into the ground. Gustave Eiffel designed this system himself, copper cables running down the tower's legs, dissipating the electrical charge harmlessly. In 96 years, thousands of lightning strikes have hit the tower. None have caused significant damage. The system works. Has always worked. Will continue working. Jean-Claude reads about a storm system moving toward Paris. Perhaps tomorrow will bring lightning. Perhaps he will see it arc down from the clouds, striking the antenna, the electricity visible for a split second before vanishing into the earth. He has seen this 17 times in his career. It is always impressive. Always brief. At 9:30, he folds the newspaper. Marie is reading her book, something about a woman in England, he thinks, though he has not been paying close attention to the plot she describes. She reads a book every week. Jean-Claude reads the newspaper every evening. This has been their pattern for years. "I'm going to bed," he says. "I'll be up soon," Marie replies. In the bedroom, Jean-Claude sets his alarm for 4:47. He lays out his clothes for tomorrow, the same clothes he wears every day, freshly laundered. He performs these small preparations automatically, his hands knowing the routine without conscious thought. In bed, In the darkness, he thinks briefly about panel 47. The paint will be drying now, in the night air. By morning it will be ready for inspection. It will pass inspection. Tomorrow he will be assigned panel 48, or section D, or perhaps the third platform. It does not matter which. The tower is the tower. Every panel is equal. Every section requires the same care, the same attention, the same patient, boring maintenance. Outside his window, somewhere across the city, the tower stands in darkness. At night, it is illuminated by 20,000 light bulbs, making it visible from every corner of Paris. The lights were added in 1985, this very year, a new system replacing the old one. Jean-Claude was not involved in the electrical work. That is a different department. But he has seen the lights from a distance, and they are beautiful in their way. 20,000 lights. 2.5 million rivets. 330 meters tall. 3 million visitors per year. 5 lightning strikes annually. 7,000 tons of iron. 60 tons of paint every 7 years. 1,665 steps. Numbers. Statistics. Facts. But also, a job. A purpose. A rhythm. A life. Jean-Claude's breathing slows. Sleep is coming. Tomorrow he will wake at 4:47. He will make coffee. He will take the metro. He will climb the stairs. He will scrape and paint and climb and descend and sign the logbook and return home. The same as today. The same as tomorrow. The same, the same, the same. The tower stands. The tower requires maintenance. The maintenance continues. Everything is as it should be. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude is already awake. His body knows the time before the clock announces it. This is the rhythm of years. Today is Wednesday. Wednesday is no different from Tuesday, which was no different from Monday. The tower does not recognize weekdays. It requires the same attention on Wednesday as on any other day. Coffee. Coveralls. Baguette, thermos, apple. Metro. The seats are the same. The darkness of the tunnel is the same. At Trocadero, Jean-Claude emerges into the pre-dawn gray, and the tower is waiting, as it always is. In the staff room, he signs the logbook. 16 Avril 1985. 5:42, his pen makes the same scratching sound it made yesterday. Will make tomorrow. Monsieur Rousseau arrives at 6 o'clock. Reviews the assignment board. Today, Jean-Claude is assigned to elevator inspection. North leg. This is different work from painting, but no less routine. No less essential. The elevators are the heart of the tower's operation. Without them, the 3 million annual visitors would need to climb 1,665 steps. Some do climb. Approximately 20,000 visitors per year choose the stairs, usually for the novelty or the exercise. But the vast majority ride the elevators. The tower has 5 passenger elevators. 4 of them are original, installed when the tower was built in 1889. They are hydraulic elevators, powered by water pressure, a technology that was revolutionary at the time and is now simply old. Old, but functional. Old, but reliable. Jean-Claude enters the small maintenance access at the base of the north leg. The space is cramped, industrial, lit by bare bulbs. This is not the tower that tourists see. This is the tower's interior, machinery and cables and the smell of oil and metal. His task today is to inspect the elevator cables in the north leg. Every cable must be examined for signs of fraying, rust, or metal fatigue. This is meticulous work. Boring work. Work that prevents catastrophe through sheer attention to detail. He begins at the bottom, running his hands along the thick steel cables. They are cool to the touch, slightly greasy from the protective oil applied monthly. His fingers move slowly, feeling for any irregularity, a broken strand, a rough spot, anything that deviates from smooth, uniform cable. The cables are replaced on a fixed schedule, regardless of their condition. Every 10 years, new cables are installed. This is not because the old cables fail. They rarely fail. But the schedule exists because prevention is cheaper than disaster. The current cables were installed in 1982. They have 8 years remaining. They will be replaced in 1992, whether they need it or not. Jean-Claude works slowly up the cable system, examining meter after meter. The elevator shaft rises above him, disappearing into darkness. The acoustics are strange here, sounds echo and multiply, making the space feel larger than it is. At 7:30, the first elevator begins its morning test run. Jean-Claude steps back, watches the massive hydraulic piston begin to move. The elevator car rises smoothly, steadily, carrying no passengers, only testing its own mechanical reliability. This test happens every morning before the tower opens. Has happened every morning for 96 years. The elevators in the tower's legs travel at an angle, following the curve of the iron structure. This required special engineering. The cars must remain level while traveling along a curved path. The pistons that drive them are enormous, housed in cylinders buried deep beneath the tower's foundation. When the elevator rises, water pressure pushes the piston up. When it descends, the pressure releases. Simple hydraulics. Simple physics. Complex engineering. Jean-Claude has never fully understood the mathematics of how the system works. He understands only his part: inspect the cables, check the mechanisms, ensure everything functions as it should. Others understand the whole. He understands his piece. By 9 o'clock, he has inspected 40 meters of cable. He has found nothing wrong. This is good. Finding nothing wrong is the goal. Drama is not wanted. Drama means failure. At 9:30, he takes his break. 8 minutes. Half a cup of coffee. He sits on a small metal bench in the maintenance area, listening to the sounds of the tower waking up, the elevators beginning their regular runs, the footsteps of tourists on the platforms above, the distant sounds of the city beyond. Somewhere above him, on the tower's third platform, there is a small weather station. It has been there since 1890, just 1 year after the tower's completion. For 95 years, meteorologists have climbed to that platform to record temperature, air pressure, humidity, wind speed. Every day, regardless of weather, regardless of season. The data collected has contributed to thousands of weather predictions, scientific papers, atmospheric studies. Jean-Claude has never been to the weather station. That is not his department. But he knows it exists. He knows that even now, someone is up there, recording data, continuing a record that stretches back almost a century. This is comforting somehow. Everyone has their task. Everyone continues. He returns to the cables. 40 meters inspected. Approximately 60 meters remaining. His hands move along the steel, feeling, examining. The work is hypnotic. The repetition creates a kind of trance state, not sleep, not quite meditation, but something in between. His mind is present but not active. Observing but not analyzing. A school group passes on the platform above. He can hear a teacher explaining about Gustav Eiffel. The tower contains 18,000 metallic parts, the teacher says. Each one was manufactured in Eiffel's factory outside Paris, then transported here and assembled. The precision was extraordinary, every piece fit perfectly, even though they were made miles away from where they would be installed. This is true. Jean-Claude knows this. The pieces of the tower were manufactured at Levallois-Perret, Eiffel's workshop in the suburbs. Each iron beam, each connecting plate, each bracket was measured, cut, and drilled with such precision that when they arrived at the construction site, they required almost no adjustment. In an era before computer-aided design, before modern measuring tools, the pieces fit together like a three-dimensional puzzle. This precision is why the tower still stands. This precision is why Jean-Claude's job exists, to maintain what was built well, rather than constantly repair what was built poorly. By 11:30, he has completed the cable inspection. He fills out the inspection form, date, location, cable condition, findings. 16 Avril 1985. North leg, elevator cables, base to first platform. Condition, excellent. Findings, none. Findings, none. The best possible outcome. The only acceptable outcome. He signs the form. Monsieur Rousseau will countersign it later. The form will go into the filing cabinet with all the others. Future inspectors will read it, or they will not. Either way, the record exists. Lunch is at 12:30. The break room is fuller today. It is Wednesday, and Wednesdays the full maintenance crew overlaps for a monthly briefing. 8 men sit around the small table, eating their lunches, making small conversation. Monsieur Rousseau enters at 12:45. The briefing is routine. Safety reminders. Schedule updates. A reminder that the tower's official height changes slightly with the seasons due to thermal expansion. On the hottest summer days, the metal expands and the tower grows approximately 15 centimeters taller. In winter, it contracts. This is normal. This is expected. This is physics. Someone asks about the new lighting system. Monsieur Rousseau explains that the 20,000 bulbs are now operational, but the full display sequence is still being programmed. Eventually, the tower will have coordinated light shows, patterns timed to music. For now, it simply glows. The briefing lasts 12 minutes. Then lunch continues. Jean-Claude finishes his baguette, his coffee, his apple. The apple is not bruised today. This is a small victory. At 1 o'clock, he receives his afternoon assignment. Third platform. Railing inspection. The climb to the third platform is long. Jean-Claude takes the stairs, the elevators are for tourists, and the service elevator is occupied with material transport today. He climbs slowly, steadily, counting steps in groups of 50. 50. 100, 150. The numbers become rhythm. The rhythm becomes meditation. The stairs ring under his boots. The sound echoes in the iron lattice. He is alone in the stairwell, most visitors take the elevator, and most workers are assigned to lower levels. This solitude is familiar. Comfortable. At the second platform, he pauses briefly. Not for rest, but for transition. He is halfway to his destination. The view from here is already remarkable, the city spread below, the Seine winding through it like a gray ribbon. But he does not stop to admire it. He has seen this view 6,000 times. It is beautiful. It is ordinary. Both. He continues climbing. The third platform is 276 meters above the ground. From here, on clear days, you can see 42 kilometers in every direction. Today is not perfectly clear, there is haze on the horizon, but the view is still impressive. The Arc de Triomphe is visible. Sacré-Cœur on its hilltop. The geometric patterns of the city's arrondissements spreading outward. Jean-Claude's task is to inspect the safety railings. The railings must be secure, tourists lean on them, press against them, trust them completely. Any weakness, any looseness, must be identified and corrected immediately. He works his way around the platform perimeter. Testing each section. Checking bolts. Looking for rust, for stress fractures, for anything that should not be there. The wind is stronger up here. It always is. The lattice structure of the tower is designed to let wind pass through. Only a fraction of the tower's surface area is solid iron. The rest is empty space, allowing wind to flow around and through the structure rather than pushing against it. This is why the tower survives storms that would destroy a solid structure. It does not fight the wind. It accommodates it. Gustave Eiffel calculated the wind resistance carefully. Every element of the tower's design considers the force of air moving past it. The curve of the legs, the spacing of the lattice, the tapering toward the top, all of it is mathematics made visible. The tower is not just architecture. It is applied physics. It is engineering as art. Jean-Claude knows this intellectually. But mostly he knows the railings are solid. The bolts are tight. The structure does what it was designed to do. A tourist approaches, a woman, middle-aged, speaking German to her companion. She leans on the railing 3 meters from where Jean-Claude is working. She does not notice him. She is looking at Paris, at the view, at the city transformed by height and distance. Jean-Claude continues his inspection. He is invisible again. This is proper. This is correct. By 3 o'clock, the railing inspection is complete. Everything is secure. Everything is as it should be. He fills out another form: location, task, findings. Findings, none. He descends. The stairs are easier going down, though harder on the knees. His legs remember every step. His body knows the descent the way it knows the alarm clock sound, the taste of morning coffee, the weight of the paintbrush in his hand. At 3:30, he reaches the ground level. Stores his equipment. Fills out his daily report. Signs the logbook. The day is complete. The tower remains standing. Tomorrow it will require attention again. Jean-Claude will provide it. Outside, the afternoon is mild. Spring in Paris. The tourists are numerous, cheerful, taking photographs from angles that have been photographed millions of times before. Each person believes their photograph will be unique. Jean-Claude knows they are all the same. All different. Both. He walks to the metro. Descends underground. The evening train is crowded. He stands, holding the pole, swaying with the motion. Tomorrow will be Thursday. Thursday will require painting, or cable inspection, or railing checks, or bolt tightening. The assignment board will tell him. He will do what is assigned. The tower will stand. This is the rhythm. This is the work. This is the life. The same, the same, the same. And in the sameness, there is purpose. There is peace. Thursday morning. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude rises, dresses, makes coffee. The ritual is unchanged. Will always be unchanged. At the tower, the logbook receives his signature. 17 Avril 1985. 5:42, the pen scratches. The ink dries. The page turns. Monsieur Rousseau assigns him to foundation inspection. East leg. This is quarterly work, performed 4 times per year according to a schedule established decades ago. The foundations are the tower's anchor to the earth. Everything depends on them. Jean-Claude descends into the maintenance access beneath the east leg. The space is cool, dim, smelling of concrete and damp earth. This is the tower's true beginning, not the visible iron lattice, but the massive stone and concrete foundations buried beneath it. Each of the tower's 4 legs rests on its own foundation. Each foundation consists of 4 enormous concrete blocks, sunk 15 meters deep into the Parisian soil. These foundations were the most difficult part of the tower's construction. The soil near the Seine is waterlogged, unstable. Eiffel's engineers had to dig down through mud and water to reach solid bedrock, then pour concrete foundations that would support thousands of tons of iron. It took longer to build the foundations than to erect the iron structure itself. 5 months of digging, pumping water, pouring concrete. All of this hidden, underground, invisible to the millions who visit each year. Jean-Claude inspects the concrete with his flashlight, looking for cracks, for water intrusion, for any sign of settling or stress. The foundations have been here for 96 years. They show almost no deterioration. Good concrete, properly mixed, can last centuries. These foundations will outlive Jean-Claude. Will outlive his children. Will outlive his grandchildren. The engineering is remarkable. Despite supporting a structure that weighs 10,100 tons, the iron framework, the elevators, the shops, the restaurants, everything, each foundation exerts a ground pressure of only 4.5 kilograms per square centimeter. Less pressure than a person standing on 1 foot. The weight is distributed so efficiently that the tower barely touches the earth. Jean-Claude runs his hand along the concrete. It is cool, solid, utterly reliable. Above him, tourists are beginning to arrive. They will ride elevators, take photographs, buy souvenirs. They will never think about the foundations. They will never consider the 15 meters of concrete and stone holding everything up. This is appropriate. The foundations do not require recognition. They require only that they continue doing what they were designed to do, support the tower. They have done this for 96 years. They will do this for 96 more. By 8:30, the inspection is complete. Foundation condition, excellent. Findings, none. Jean-Claude emerges back into daylight, blinking in the brightness. His next assignment is paint preparation, 2nd platform, section E. He climbs. The stairs are familiar. His legs know the rhythm. By the time he reaches the 2nd platform, his breathing is steady, his heart rate elevated but not strained. 17 years of climbing have made him stronger than he was at 30. His body has adapted. This is what bodies do. Section E, panel 73. This panel was painted 2 years ago during the previous cycle. Now the paint is beginning to show where, not dramatically, but enough that it requires attention. This is the nature of the work. Nothing lasts forever. Everything requires maintenance. Jean-Claude begins scraping. The old paint comes away in small flakes. Beneath it, the iron is dark, protected by decades of paint layers. The tower has been repainted 18 times since its construction. 18 complete repainting cycles, each one requiring 60 tons of new paint. But first, the old paint must be removed. Approximately 50 tons of old paint are stripped away during each repainting. Stripped by hand, panel by panel, section by section. The paint flakes fall through the lattice work, drifting down through 300 meters of open space, landing eventually on the ground below or being carried away by the wind. Somewhere in Paris, there are particles of Eiffel Tower paint. In the soil of the Champ de Mars. In the gutters of nearby streets. Scattered, dispersed, invisible. The tower sheds itself slowly, continuously, and is renewed. Layer after layer. Year after year. Jean-Claude scrapes. His mind is quiet. The work requires no thought, only attention. Scrape. 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 A tour group passes. The guide is young, enthusiastic, speaking in rapid French about the tower's construction. 300 workers built the tower over 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days, the guide says. And remarkably, not a single worker died during construction. This was almost unheard of for such a large project in that era. This is true. Jean-Claude knows the history. The tower's construction was extraordinarily safe for its time. Workers used primitive safety equipment by modern standards, worked at great heights, handled massive iron beams. Yet all 300 men who built the tower survived to see it completed. This was Gustave Eiffel's pride, not just the tower itself, but the fact that it was built without sacrificing human life. Jean-Claude thinks about those 300 men sometimes. Wonders if any of them felt the way he feels now, the quiet satisfaction of work done well, day after day, without drama or disaster. Probably some did. Probably some were bored by the repetition. Probably some dreamed of other things. But they built the tower. And now Jean-Claude maintains it. Different work, same purpose, keeping the structure standing. By 9:30, he takes his break. 8 minutes. Half a cup of coffee. The wind is stronger today, and he can feel the platform swaying slightly beneath him. Not enough to alarm anyone, but enough to notice if you know what to feel for. The tower is moving. Breathing. Alive in its way. He returns to work. The scraping continues. Panel 73 is large, it will take most of the day to prepare properly. This does not concern him. He has time. The tower has time. A child leans over the railing nearby, pointing down at the city. "It's so high," the child says in German. The mother laughs, steadies the child, takes a photograph. Jean-Claude scrapes. The paint flakes fall. The morning passes. At 11 o'clock, something unusual happens. Monsieur Rousseau approaches, climbing the stairs to the second platform. This is unusual. Monsieur Rousseau typically remains at ground level, reviewing paperwork, coordinating assignments. His presence here means something requires attention. "Jean-Claude," he says, slightly out of breath from the climb. "We have a situation." Jean-Claude sets down his scraper. Waits. Situations are rare but not unprecedented. Usually they involve tourists, someone stuck in an elevator, someone who climbed too high and panicked, someone who lost something valuable down through the lattice. "There is a film crew," Monsieur Rousseau says. "They have permission to film on the third platform this afternoon. They want to include footage of maintenance work. Authentic work," they said. "I told them you would be available." Jean-Claude says nothing for a moment. He dislikes cameras. Dislikes attention. But if this is the assignment, he will do it. "What do they want me to do?" he asks. "What you always do. Scrape paint. They want to film the real work. Not staged. Not performed. Just real." Jean-Claude nods. "What time?" 1400 hours. Third platform. "I will be there." Monsieur Rousseau nods, satisfied, and begins the descent back down. Jean-Claude returns to panel 73. The scraping continues. This afternoon will be different from other afternoons, but only in the presence of cameras. The work will be the same. The work is always the same. By 12:30, he breaks for lunch. Baguette, coffee, apple. Marcel is in the break room, along with Philippe and the new man whose name Jean-Claude has finally learned, Thierry. They discuss the film crew. Marcel thinks it is foolish. Who wants to watch someone scrape paint? Thierry thinks it might be interesting. Philippe says nothing, eating his sandwich in comfortable silence. Jean-Claude agrees with Marcel but says nothing. His opinion is irrelevant. The film crew has permission. He will do what is required. At 2 o'clock, he climbs to the third platform. The film crew is already there, 3 people with a camera, lights, and complicated equipment. They are young, dressed in fashionable clothes that seem impractical for the height and wind. The director approaches, shakes Jean-Claude's hand enthusiastically. "We are making a documentary about the tower," the director explains. "Not just its history, but its present. The people who keep it functioning. You are part of the tower's life." Jean-Claude nods. He does not feel like part of the tower's life. He feels like Jean-Claude, doing his job. "Just work normally," the director says. "Pretend we are not here." This is impossible, but Jean-Claude understands the intent. He moves to his assigned panel, Section F, Panel 91, and begins scraping. The camera watches. He tries to ignore it. Focuses on the work. Scrape. 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 The director asks questions. "How long have you worked here? What is your typical day? Do you enjoy the work?" Jean-Claude answers simply. 17 years. Every day is similar. The work is satisfying. "Why?" the director presses. "What makes it satisfying?" Jean-Claude pauses, considers. "The tower requires maintenance. I provide it. This is useful work." The director seems disappointed by this answer, as though he expected something more poetic, more philosophical. But Jean-Claude has no poetry to offer. Only truth. The filming continues for 40 minutes. Jean-Claude scrapes paint, the camera records it, and the director asks occasional questions that Jean-Claude answers with minimal words. Eventually, they seem satisfied. They thank him, pack their equipment, and leave. Jean-Claude continues scraping. The panel still requires preparation, camera or no camera. The work does not stop for filming. By 3:30, Panel 91 is ready for its first coat. Jean-Claude cleans his scraper, stores his tools, begins his descent. In the staff room, he fills out his daily report. Notes the unusual event, film crew present 14 to 14:40. Work continued as normal. Monsieur Rousseau reads this, nods. "They asked about you," he says. "Wanted to know your story. I told them you have been here 17 years. They seemed impressed." Jean-Claude shrugs. 17 years is not remarkable. Some men have worked here for 40 years. The tower itself has stood for 96. His 17 years is nothing against that scale. "They wanted to know about Gustave Eiffel's apartment," Monsieur Rousseau continues. "At the summit. I told them it still exists. This is true. At the very top of the tower, Gustave Eiffel maintained a private apartment. A small space, lavishly furnished for its era, where he conducted experiments and occasionally entertained important guests. Thomas Edison visited once. The apartment still exists, preserved, though it is not open to the public. It sits empty, a monument to the tower's creator. Jean-Claude has never been inside the apartment. That is not his department. But he knows it is there, directly above him when he works on the upper platforms. An empty room in the sky, waiting. Everything at the tower waits. The foundations wait beneath the earth. Eiffel's apartment waits at the summit. The iron lattice waits between them. And people like Jean-Claude move through it all, maintaining, preserving, ensuring the waiting continues. He signs out at 4:15. The day is complete. The tower stands. Tomorrow will be Friday. Friday will bring painting, or inspections, or routine maintenance. The assignment board will tell him. He will do what is required. Outside, the spring afternoon is beautiful. The tourists are happy, taking photographs, buying postcards, experiencing the tower as visitors do, briefly, intensely, then moving on to the next site. Jean-Claude has been experiencing the tower for 17 years. Will experience it tomorrow. And the day after. The same, the same, the same. And in the sameness, the tower continues. Unchanging, eternal, requiring only what it has always required, attention, maintenance, care. Jean-Claude provides this. Has provided it. Will provide it. This is enough. This is everything. Friday morning. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude wakes, as he always does, as he always will. The week is ending, but the tower does not recognize weeks any more than it recognizes individual days. The tower simply continues. Jean-Claude continues with it. At the tower, the logbook. 18 Avril 1985. 5:42, his signature. The same pen, the same page, the same moment repeated. Monsieur Rousseau assigns him to the second platform again. Panel 73, the panel he began scraping yesterday. Today he will complete the preparation and apply the first coat. This is satisfying. Beginning something and finishing it. The completion of a small cycle within the larger, endless cycle. Jean-Claude climbs. The morning air is cool. Spring in Paris means variable weather, warm afternoons, cold mornings, rain that comes suddenly and leaves just as quickly. But today is clear. The sky is pale blue, brightening as the sun rises somewhere beyond the city's edge. At the second platform, he returns to panel 73. The scraped surface has been inspected. Monsieur Rousseau came up yesterday afternoon after Jean-Claude descended. The chalk mark is there, a small check mark indicating approval. The panel is ready. Jean-Claude opens his paint bucket. The brown paint is perfectly mixed, the exact shade specified. He dips his brush, begins the first stroke. The tower was built for the 1889 Universal Exposition, a World's Fair celebrating the centennial of the French Revolution. The exposition lasted 6 months, May through October, and attracted over 32 million visitors. The tower was its centerpiece. Its symbol. Its impossible, audacious declaration that France remained a nation of innovation and ambition. The exposition ended. The exhibits were dismantled. The temporary pavilions were torn down. But the tower remained. Temporary in intention. Permanent in execution. Jean-Claude paints. Stroke by stroke. The brush moves steadily across the iron surface, leaving behind a trail of fresh brown paint that gleams wetly before beginning its slow transformation to matte. When the tower was first proposed, many hated it. Artists, writers, intellectuals signed a petition against its construction. They called it a metal asparagus. A hideous chimney. An insult to French taste and elegance. Guy de Maupassant, the famous writer, supposedly ate lunch in the tower's restaurant every day because it was the only place in Paris where he could not see the tower. The protests did not stop construction. The tower rose anyway. And eventually, even its critics found beauty in it. Or at least, they stopped complaining. The tower became Paris. Became France. Became so essential to the city's identity that imagining Paris without it became impossible. Jean-Claude has never found the tower beautiful in the traditional sense. It is not graceful like a cathedral. Not elegant like the bridges across the Seine. But it is honest. It is exactly what it appears to be, iron and engineering, function made visible. There is a different kind of beauty in that. The beauty of things that work. He paints. The morning passes. Dip, stroke, stroke. Dip, stroke, stroke. At 9:30, he takes his break. 8 minutes. The coffee is still warm. He drinks it slowly, looking out over the city. Below, the Champ de Mars is already filling with tourists, vendors setting up their stands, the daily commerce of the tower beginning. The tower was almost demolished in 1909. 20 years after its construction, as originally planned. Gustave Eiffel's permit expired. The city of Paris debated whether to keep the tower or tear it down. It was still controversial. Still considered ugly by some. Still seen as temporary. What saved it was utility. The tower had become essential for radio transmission, military communications, meteorological observations, scientific research. It was too useful to destroy. So the demolition was cancelled. The tower remained. Continues remaining. Jean-Claude thinks about this sometimes. How close the tower came to not existing. How all the work he does, all the maintenance and painting and inspection, might never have been necessary. The tower might have been dismantled 96 years ago, sold for scrap, forgotten. But it was not. It stands. He paints it. At 10 o'clock, he returns to work. Panel 73 is half covered now. The fresh paint transforms the iron, makes it look renewed, protected, cared for. Which it is. A class of schoolchildren passes, led by their teacher. They are young, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, and they cluster against the railing, pointing at things, asking questions in high, excited voices. One child asks where the iron came from. The teacher explains, the iron was forged at Pompeii, in northeastern France. All 10,100 tons of it. The iron was shaped into beams at the factory, then transported here by rail. Each piece was numbered so the workers would know exactly where it belonged. This is true. Jean-Claude knows this from the historical records kept in Monsieur Rousseau's office. The forge at Pompeii produced iron of exceptional quality, strong, workable, resistant to the elements. That iron has lasted 96 years. Will last 96 more. Good materials, properly maintained, endure. He continues painting. The children move on, their voices fading into the general noise of the platform, footsteps, conversations in multiple languages, the click and whir of cameras. By noon, panel 73 is completely covered. The first coat is finished. Jean-Claude cleans his brush with the same care he always does. 12 minutes of work, ensuring the bristles are paint-free, preserved, ready for tomorrow's use. Lunch is at 12:30. Baguette, coffee, apple. The break room is quiet today. Most of the crew is scattered across the tower's various platforms and levels, each man at his assigned task. Jean-Claude eats alone, which is fine. He does not require company. The solitude is comfortable. At 1 o'clock, he receives his afternoon assignment, observation deck maintenance. Top platform. This is occasional work, performed as needed when wear is noticed or problems reported. The climb to the top platform is the longest. Jean-Claude has made this climb perhaps 50 times in 17 years. Not often, but often enough that his body knows it. Knows the rhythm, the breathing, the way his legs will feel at the summit. He climbs. The stairs ring with each step. Tourists descending pass him, out of breath, holding the railings, marveling at the height. Jean-Claude nods politely when they make eye contact but does not speak. He is working. They are visiting. These are different activities. The top platform is 276 meters above ground. The same height as the third platform, but this is the public observation deck, the highest point tourists can reach. Above this is only the antenna and the small private spaces once used by Gustave Eiffel. Jean-Claude emerges onto the platform. The wind is strong here, as it always is. The view is extraordinary, as it always is. He has seen this view 50 times. It does not diminish. It simply is. From this height, Paris looks like a map. The streets are lines. The buildings are blocks. The river is a sketch. Everything is reduced to its essential geometry. His task today is to check the protective barriers around the observation deck. Tourist safety is paramount. The barriers must be secure, the mesh tight, the bolts firm. He works his way around the perimeter, testing each section. The barriers are solid. This is expected. They are checked regularly, maintained rigorously. But the checking must continue regardless. Assumption is dangerous. Verification is necessary. A couple stands nearby, taking photographs of each other with the city behind them. They are young, happy, holding hands between shots. Jean-Claude works around them, invisible, unnoticed. The sun is high now, and Jean-Claude notices something he has noticed many times before: the tower is leaning. Just slightly. Not dangerously. But perceptibly, if you know what to feel for. On sunny days, the iron on the sunny side of the tower heats up and expands. The iron on the shady side remains cooler. This differential heating causes the tower to lean away from the sun, sometimes as much as 18 centimeters at the top. As the sun moves, the lean shifts. The tower follows the sun like a massive sundial, bending slightly, always slightly, away from the heat. By evening, when the temperature equalizes, the tower straightens again. Every sunny day, this happens. Has happened for 96 years. Will happen tomorrow if the sun shines. Jean-Claude finds this remarkable. A structure weighing 10,000 tons, bending with the sunlight. Physics made visible. The tower is not rigid. It is responsive. Alive to temperature, to wind, to the forces acting upon it. He continues his inspection. Everything is secure. Everything is as it should be. At 2:30, he pauses. Not for scheduled break, but because his radio crackles. Monsieur Rousseau's voice: Jean-Claude, when you finish the barrier inspection, there is a small task at Eiffel's laboratory. A loose shelf. Can you attend to it? Jean-Claude confirms. Eiffel's laboratory. He has been there only twice in 17 years. It is not regularly maintained, it is more museum than functional space now. But occasionally, small repairs are needed. The laboratory is one level above the observation deck, accessible by a narrow stairway. Jean-Claude climbs. The space is small, cramped, filled with old equipment that Gustave Eiffel used for his experiments. Eiffel was not just an engineer. He was a scientist. From this laboratory at the tower's summit, he conducted research in meteorology, aerodynamics, radio transmission. He dropped objects from the tower to study air resistance. He measured wind speed and atmospheric pressure. He used the tower as an enormous scientific instrument. Some of the equipment remains. Old barometers. Wind measurement devices. Tables covered with instruments whose purpose Jean-Claude cannot identify. The space feels frozen in time. As though Eiffel might return at any moment to continue his work. Jean-Claude locates the loose shelf. It is a small thing, just 3 screws that have worked themselves slightly free over the decades. He tightens them with his screwdriver. The work takes 4 minutes. The shelf is secure. The laboratory is preserved. Jean-Claude descends. By 3 o'clock, he is back at ground level. His assignments for the day are complete. He fills out his paperwork, noting each task, each location, each outcome. Panel 73, first code applied. Condition, excellent. Top platform barriers, inspected. Condition, secure. Eiffel's laboratory, shelf repaired. Condition, satisfactory. Findings, none. As always. As it should be. At 3:30, he signs out. The week is complete. Tomorrow is Saturday, his day off. Sunday is also off. 2 days away from the tower. 2 days of different routines, different rhythms. But Monday will come. Monday always comes. And Jean-Claude will return. Will sign in at 5:42. Will receive his assignment. Will climb, scrape, paint, inspect, maintain. The tower will be waiting. The tower is always waiting. Outside, the afternoon is warm now. The spring sun has heated the iron, and Jean-Claude knows, though he cannot see it from here, that the tower is leaning slightly. 18 centimeters at the top. Bending away from the light. By evening it will straighten. By Monday morning it will be vertical again. And Jean-Claude will be there, climbing its stairs, maintaining its surfaces, ensuring it continues to stand. He walks to the metro. Descends underground. The Friday evening train is crowded, people heading home for the weekend, tired from their work weeks, ready for rest. Jean-Claude is also ready for rest. But his tiredness is different. It is the good tiredness of work completed. Of small tasks done well. Of another week maintaining what must be maintained. At home, Marie asks about his day. How is the tower? Still standing, he replies. She smiles. Their small joke. Their ritual. The weekend will be pleasant. Quiet. On Sunday, perhaps they will walk to the market. Perhaps they will visit Marie's sister. Perhaps they will do nothing at all. But Monday will come. And the tower will be waiting. And Jean-Claude will return to his work. The same work. The endless, necessary, boring work of keeping a monument standing. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, there is peace. There is purpose. There is everything. Saturday morning. No alarm. Jean-Claude wakes naturally at 6:15, his body uncertain without the 4:47 ritual. The apartment is quiet. Marie is still sleeping. This is his day off. His time away from the tower. He makes coffee. Sits at the kitchen window. Drinks it slowly. From his apartment, he cannot see the tower. But he knows it is there. Somewhere across the city, the iron lattice stands in the morning light. Other workers are there now. Marcel, probably. Philippe. The Saturday maintenance crew, smaller than weekdays, but still present. The tower requires attention every day. Even Saturdays. Even Sundays. But not from Jean-Claude. Not today. He should feel relieved. He should enjoy the break. And he does, in a way. But there's also a small absence. The tower has become part of his rhythm. Working there feels more natural than not working there. Marie wakes at 8 o'clock. They have breakfast together, real breakfast, not rushed. Croissants from the bakery downstairs. Jam. More coffee. They talk about small things. Marie's sister is visiting next week. The landlord is raising the rent. The weather is supposed to be nice tomorrow. Normal conversation. Weekend conversation. The kind of talk that has nothing to do with paint or iron or maintenance schedules. After breakfast, Marie suggests a walk. We could go to the market, she says. Maybe walk along the Seine. Jean-Claude agrees. He dresses in his weekend clothes, clothes that do not smell of paint or metal. They leave the apartment, descend to the street, join the flow of Saturday morning Paris. The market is crowded. Vendors selling vegetables, cheese, flowers, bread. People examining produce, bargaining, carrying string bags filled with their purchases. Jean-Claude and Marie move through it slowly, stopping occasionally to buy things. Tomatoes. A piece of cheese. Marie buys flowers, yellow roses that she will put in a vase on their kitchen table. After the market, they walk toward the river. The morning is pleasant. Warm but not hot. The kind of spring day that makes Paris feel like the most beautiful city in the world. And then, as they round a corner, Jean-Claude sees it. The tower. Rising above the buildings, visible from this angle, dominating the skyline. He stops walking. Marie notices, follows his gaze. Do you want to go closer? She asks. Jean-Claude considers. He sees the tower 6 days a week. Climbs it, works on it, knows its surfaces more intimately than most people know their own homes. Does he want to see it on his day off? Yes, he says. For a moment. They walk toward it. As they get closer, the tower grows larger, more present, until it fills the sky above them. They reach the Champ de Mars. The plaza is full of tourists, as it always is on Saturdays. Families. Couples. Tour groups following guides with flags. People taking photographs from every possible angle, trying to capture something that has been photographed millions of times before. Jean-Claude and Marie find a bench. Sit. Look up at the tower. From here, from the outside, it looks different than it does when he is working on it. More elegant. More impossible. When he is on the tower, it is simply iron and paint and rivets. From here, it is architecture. Monument. Symbol. Do you ever get tired of it? Marie asks. Sometimes, Jean-Claude admits. The repetition can be tiring. But mostly, no. Mostly it is satisfying. Why? He thinks about how to answer. Because it needs to be maintained. And I know how to maintain it. This is useful work. Marie nods. She understands. She has been married to him for 14 years. She knows how he thinks, how he finds meaning in routine rather than novelty. They sit in comfortable silence, watching the tourists flow around the tower's base like water around a stone. Jean-Claude knows facts about the tower that these tourists will never know. He knows, for instance, that the elevators in the tower's 4 legs travel a combined distance of 103,000 kilometers every year. The circumference of the Earth is 40,000 kilometers. This means the elevators, collectively, travel the equivalent of going around the planet nearly 3 times annually. All this motion, up and down, carrying visitors who ride for seconds or minutes and then continue with their lives. He knows that the current repainting cycle, the one he is contributing to, panel by panel, requires approximately 25 painters working continuously for 15 to 18 months. 25 men, each painting small sections, each completing their assigned panels, and somehow, through this distributed effort, the entire tower is renewed. No single painter paints the whole tower. But together, collectively, they cover every surface. Jean-Claude is one of 25. This is humbling. Also comforting. The work is too large for one person. But divided among many, it becomes manageable. Possible. Routine. A tour guide passes nearby, leading a group of German tourists. The guide is explaining something about the tower's legs. The 4 legs are oriented along the cardinal directions, the guide says. North, south, east, west. This was intentional. Gustav Eiffel wanted the tower to align with the compass points. With the fundamental geometry of the Earth. Jean-Claude did not know this. Or if he knew it, he had forgotten. He works on the east leg most frequently. His assignments tend to rotate through the same sections. The east leg. The one pointing toward the rising sun. The tourists nod, take notes, take photographs. They will forget this fact within a week. But it is true. The tower aligns with the Earth. Stands at attention to north, south, east, west. Even in this, there is precision. Intent. Design. Marie touches his arm. We should go, she says gently. We have groceries to put away. Jean-Claude nods. But he takes one more moment, looking up at the tower. Somewhere up there, on the second platform, panel 73 is drying. The first coat he applied yesterday, now hardening, becoming part of the tower's protective skin. On Monday, someone will inspect it. On Tuesday or Wednesday, someone will apply the second coat. The work continues whether Jean-Claude is present or not. This should bother him, the idea that he is replaceable, that the work would continue without him. But it does not. The tower is larger than any individual. It requires many hands, many days, many years. Jean-Claude's 17 years are a small part of the tower's 96 years. His work matters, but it is also just one thread in a much larger fabric. They walk home. The groceries are getting heavy. Marie's flowers need water. Normal Saturday tasks await them. That evening, Jean-Claude reads the newspaper. There's an article about the tower, something about plans for the centennial celebration in 1989. For more years. The tower will be 100 years old. There will be events, fireworks, special ceremonies. Jean-Claude will be there, probably. Not as a guest. As a worker. Maintaining the structure while others celebrate it. Making sure the iron is painted, the elevators function, the bolts are tight. Behind the scenes. Invisible. Essential. He reads that during the First World War, the tower's radio transmitter was used for military communications. The antenna at the summit intercepted enemy messages, helped coordinate Allied forces, proved essential to the war effort. The tower, built for an exposition, became a tool of survival. Of victory. This saved it from demolition, not just the radio technology in general, but specifically its wartime service. After the war, when debates about the tower's future resumed, its military value made it untouchable. A monument could be demolished. Strategic infrastructure could not. The tower survived because it was useful. This theme repeats throughout its history. Beauty alone would not have saved it. Function did. Jean-Claude finds this appropriate. He is not interested in beauty for its own sake. He is interested in things that work. In systems that function. In maintenance that prevents failure. The tower works. Has worked for 96 years. Will work for 96 more. Later, the article mentions something else. During the Second World War, when German forces occupied Paris, Adolf Hitler visited the city. He wanted to ascend the tower. But the elevator cables had been cut, allegedly by French workers as an act of subtle resistance. Hitler would have needed to climb the 1,665 steps to reach the top. He did not climb. He viewed the tower from the ground and left. Jean-Claude smiles slightly at this. The tower, even in occupation, maintaining a small dignity. Refusing easy access to those who did not respect it. The article also mentions that later in the war, as German forces retreated from Paris, Hitler gave orders for the tower to be destroyed. To deny the French their symbol. To leave Paris scarred. The order was not carried out. The German commander in Paris, General von Choltitz, refused. Or delayed. Or simply ran out of time. The reasons are debated. But the result is clear: the tower survived. Stand still. Continues. Jean-Claude folds the newspaper. History is interesting, but distant. What matters to him is the present. The daily work. The ongoing maintenance. On Monday, he will return. Panel 73 will be dry. New assignments will be waiting. The tower will require attention. And Jean-Claude will provide it. Sunday passes quietly. Marie and Jean-Claude visit her sister in the afternoon. They have dinner. Return home in the evening. The weekend is ending. Tomorrow is Monday. Jean-Claude sets his alarm for 4:47. Lays out his work clothes. The blue coveralls, soft and familiar. His boots. His lunch, baguette, thermos, apple. Everything is ready. Everything is in order. In bed, in the darkness, he thinks about the tower. About panel 73 drying in the night air. About the elevators that will begin running in the morning, starting their daily journey of 103,000 kilometers divided by 365 days. 282 kilometers per day. Up and down, carrying tourists who will exclaim at the view and take their photographs and descend again, never thinking about the cables, the mechanisms, the maintenance schedules. Never thinking about men like Jean-Claude, who arrive before dawn and leave after the work is done. This is appropriate. The tower should seem effortless. Should seem eternal. The work that keeps it functioning should be invisible. Jean-Claude is invisible. Has been for 17 years. Will be for however many years remain before retirement. This is acceptable. This is correct. The tower stands because invisible men maintain it. The same. In the darkness, Jean-Claude's breathing slows. Sleep approaches. Tomorrow is Monday. The tower will be waiting. And Jean-Claude will return to his work. The only work he has known for 17 years. The work of keeping something standing. Something permanent. Something that will outlast him. The elevators will travel their daily kilometers. The paint will dry and be inspected and receive its second coat. The iron will expand slightly in the afternoon sun, contract slightly in the evening cool. The wind will blow. The tourists will come. The photographs will be taken. And Jean-Claude will be there. Scraping, painting, inspecting, climbing, descending. Maintaining. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, there is purpose. There is peace. There is everything. Monday morning. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude wakes instantly, the weekend already fading into memory. This is the rhythm returning. This is correct. Coffee. Coveralls. Baguette, thermos, apple. Metro. The familiar sequence, performed without thought, the body knowing what to do. At Trocadero, he emerges into the pre-dawn darkness. The tower is a silhouette against the slowly lightening sky. Waiting, as it always waits. Inside, the logbook. 21 Avril 1985. 5:42, his signature joins the others, Marcel's above it, written at 5:38. The continuity of routine. The comfort of sameness. Monsieur Rousseau arrives at 6 o'clock precisely. He reviews the assignment board, makes small adjustments, then turns to address the morning crew. Panel 73, second platform, is ready for inspection, he says, glancing at Jean-Claude. I will inspect it myself this morning. Jean-Claude, you are assigned to the first platform. The post office requires minor repair. A door hinge. Jean-Claude nods. The post office. He has not worked there in perhaps 6 months. The Eiffel Tower has its own post office, located on the first platform. It has operated there since 1889, the same year the tower opened. Visitors can mail postcards and letters stamped with a special Eiffel Tower postmark, unique to this location. Thousands of postcards are sent from this small office every week. Messages to distant homes, carrying the tower's mark across the world. Jean-Claude gathers his tools. A screwdriver, a small container of lubricating oil, a replacement hinge just in case. Monsieur Rousseau is thorough. If he says a hinge needs repair, he has already determined exactly what is required. At 6:47, Jean-Claude begins climbing to the first platform. The stairs are familiar. His boots ring on the iron. The sound echoes in the emptiness. The tower is cold this morning. April can be deceptive, warm afternoons, but the nights are still cool, and the iron holds the cold from darkness. In winter, the tower shrinks. The iron contracts in the cold, and the entire structure can become 6 inches shorter than its summer height. Jean-Claude has measured this himself, years ago, out of curiosity. The tower in January stands 329 meters and 94 centimeters tall. In July, 330 meters exactly. The same tower, different heights, depending on temperature. Physics made visible. Iron responding to heat and cold like a living thing. Growing in summer. Shrinking in winter. Breathing with the seasons. Jean-Claude reaches the first platform at 7:15. The post office is a small building within the larger platform structure. It is not yet open, postal hours begin at 10 o'clock. But Jean-Claude has a key. All maintenance workers do. He unlocks the door, enters the small space. It smells of paper and ink. The walls are covered with postcards for sale, showing the tower from every angle, in every season, at every time of day. Thousands of identical images of the same structure. The problematic hinge is on the door to the back room. Jean-Claude examines it. The screws have worked themselves slightly loose over time. Vibration, perhaps. Or simply age. The door is opened and closed hundreds of times per day. Even the best hardware eventually loosens. He tightens the screws. Tests the door. It swings smoothly now, no longer catching. A small repair. Minutes of work. But necessary. The post office must function properly. Tourists expect it. While he works, Jean-Claude thinks about all the postcards sent from this room. Messages written in languages he does not speak, addressed to countries he has never visited, carrying news and greetings and small declarations of "I was here." The tower is always here. The tourists come and go. The postcards travel across oceans. But the tower remains. He finishes the repair, locks the post office, returns to the platform. The sun is rising now, and Jean-Claude can see the city spreading below him. From this height, 73 meters, Paris looks different than it does from the ground. Smaller. More manageable. The streets are visible as patterns. The buildings are reduced to their basic shapes. He radios Monsieur Rousseau. Post office door repaired. Hinge secured. The radio crackles. Acknowledged. New assignment, first platform restaurant area. General inspection. Jean-Claude moves to the restaurant section. The tower has 2 restaurants. One here on the first platform, currently closed for renovation but scheduled to reopen next month. Another on the second platform, the famous Jules Verne restaurant, which has operated since 1983. Fine dining at 125 meters above Paris. The Jules Verne has a Michelin star now. Critics praise its cuisine. But Jean-Claude has never eaten there. It is expensive. Formal. Not a place for maintenance workers in paint-stained coveralls. His inspection of the first platform restaurant is routine. Checking railings, testing floor stability, examining windows for cracks. Everything is in good order. The renovation work has been careful, professional. As he works, a small tour group arrives on the platform. Early tourists, ambitious enough to arrive before the crowds. The guide is explaining something about the tower's construction schedule. The tower was built in only 22 months, the guide says. This was considered impossible. Most experts predicted it would take 5 years, if it could be built at all. But Gustave Eiffel had prefabricated every piece in his workshop. When construction began, it was more like assembly than building. Like putting together a giant puzzle. 22 months. Jean-Claude knows this. The foundation work, 5 months. The iron assembly, 17 months. Total, 22 months from breaking ground to completion. A structure 330 meters tall, built faster than most buildings 1/10 its size. The precision required was extraordinary. Every rivet hole pre-drilled. Every beam cut to exact specifications. No room for error. No margin for improvisation. Everything calculated, measured, manufactured to tolerances of less than 1 millimeter. This is why the tower has lasted 96 years. This is why Jean-Claude's maintenance work is relatively simple. The foundation was perfect. The construction was perfect. Maintenance is just preserving what was done correctly the first time. By 9:30, the restaurant inspection is complete. Jean-Claude takes his break. 8 minutes. Half a cup of coffee. He sits on the platform, watching the city wake fully. The traffic is building on the streets below. The Seine is busy with boat traffic. Paris conducting its daily business, while above it all, the tower stands and watches. He thinks about Gustave Eiffel sometimes. Wonders what the man would think if he could see his tower now. Still standing. Still functional. Still drawing millions of visitors every year. Eiffel died in 1923. 62 years ago. He was 91 years old. He lived long enough to see his tower become permanent, become beloved, become Paris itself. This must have been satisfying. To build something that outlasted you. To create something that continued. Jean-Claude will not live to 91. Probably not. But he will work on the tower for as long as he can. And when he retires, someone else will take his place. We'll sign the logbook. We'll climb the stairs. We'll scrape and paint and inspect. The tower will continue. With him or without him. This is not depressing. This is reality. Good reality. The tower is larger than any individual. This is appropriate. At 10 o'clock, he receives a new assignment. Third platform. Weather station maintenance. The climb to the third platform takes longer. Jean-Claude's legs are tired already from the morning's work, but they continue anyway. One step, then another, then another. The rhythm is meditative. The counting helps. 50 steps. 100. 150. At the third platform, he finds the weather station. It is a small enclosure, filled with instruments that measure temperature, humidity, atmospheric pressure, wind speed. These measurements have been taken every day since 1890. 95 years of continuous data. The tower serves as a platform for science, not just tourism. A meteorologist is present, a young woman Jean-Claude has not seen before. She nods politely as he enters. "I'm here to check the instrument housing," Jean-Claude says. "Scheduled maintenance." "Of course," she replies. She continues her work, recording numbers in a logbook not unlike the one Jean-Claude signs each morning. He inspects the housing. It is a protective structure designed to shield the delicate instruments from direct sunlight and rain while still allowing air to circulate freely. The construction is simple but clever. Everything has been well maintained by the meteorological staff, but Jean-Claude checks anyway. This is his job. While he works, the meteorologist explains what she is doing. "We record observations 4 times daily," she says. These measurements contribute to national weather forecasting. The height of the tower gives us data from an elevated position that ground stations cannot provide. Jean-Claude nods. He knew the tower was used for weather observation, but he had not known the frequency. 4 times daily. Every day. For 95 years. "Did you know," the meteorologist continues, "that Gustave Eiffel conducted experiments dropping objects from the tower? To study air resistance in falling bodies. He dropped spheres of different materials and measured their descent times. His data contributed to early aerodynamics research." Jean-Claude did not know this. The tower is laboratory. As instrument. As tool for understanding how things fall through air. He also installed equipment for studying radio wave propagation, she adds. In the 1890s, when radio was still experimental. The tower's height made it perfect for transmission experiments. Some say his scientific work is what truly saved the tower from demolition. It was too valuable for research to destroy. Science. Utility. Function. Always these things saving the tower. Never beauty alone. Jean-Claude completes his inspection. The housing is secure. The instruments are protected. He thanks the meteorologist and descends. By noon, he has completed his morning assignments. Lunch is in the break room. Baguette, coffee, apple. Marcel is there, along with Thierry and 2 workers from the electrical crew. They discuss the upcoming centennial. 1989, for more years. There is talk of special illumination, of celebrations, of international attention. The electrical crew will be busy. The maintenance crew will be busy. Everyone will be busy. But that is 4 years away. Today is today. Monday, 21 Avril 1985. The work continues as it always does. After lunch, Jean-Claude is assigned to paint detail work. Small areas around the elevator machinery on the second platform. Tight spaces that require careful brushwork. This is meticulous work. Slow work. He works through the afternoon. Dip, stroke, stroke. The brush reaches into corners, behind mechanisms, into places tourists never see and never think about. But the paint must cover everything. Rust does not distinguish between visible and invisible surfaces. At 3 o'clock, he pauses. Straightens his back. Looks out over Paris. The afternoon sun is warm now. The tower will be expanding slightly. Growing at 6 inches. Leaning away from the sun. Everything responds to forces. The iron responds to temperature. Jean-Claude responds to routine. The tower responds to wind, to sun, to the passage of time. All things are subject to forces larger than themselves. All things require maintenance to resist decay. At 3:30, he finishes his work. Cleans his brush. 12 minutes of careful cleaning. The bristles must be preserved. He descends. Signs out at 4:15. The day is complete. The tower continues. Outside, the plaza is crowded with tourists. Someone is playing violin near the carousel. Children are running, laughing. The tower rises above it all, indifferent, permanent, watching. Jean-Claude walks to the metro. Descends underground. The train carries him home. Tomorrow he will return. Wednesday will come. Thursday. Friday. The week will continue. The weeks will become months. The months will become years. The tower will stand. Will require maintenance. Will receive it. And Jean-Claude will be there. One of 25 painters. One of perhaps 100 workers total. One of thousands who have maintained the tower across 96 years. His contribution is small. But necessary. Like a single rivet. Meaningless alone. Essential as part of the whole. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, the tower endures. In the endurance, there is meaning. There is everything. Tuesday morning. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude wakes, rises, begins the ritual. Coffee. Coveralls. The same sequence, performed in the same order, day after day after day. At the tower, the logbook receives his signature. 22 Avril 1985. 5:42, the ink is the same. The page is different. Everything continues. Monsieur Rousseau assigns him to general inspection duties. First platform. This means walking the perimeter, checking for any issues that require attention. Small cracks. Loose bolts. Anything out of place. Jean-Claude climbs. The morning is cool again. His breath makes small clouds in the air. By the time he reaches the first platform, his body is warm from the exertion, but his hands are still cold. He flexes his fingers, preparing them for the detailed work ahead. He begins his circuit of the platform, moving slowly, methodically, examining every visible surface. His eyes are trained now, after 17 years. They notice things that others would miss. A bolt that is slightly less tight than it should be. A paint chip that indicates potential rust beneath. A weld that shows the smallest sign of stress. As he walks, he passes beneath the frieze that runs around the first platform. The frieze is decorated with the names of 72 French scientists, engineers, and mathematicians. They are engraved into the iron: Lagrange, Laplace, Lavoisier, and 69 others. Men whose work in physics, mathematics, and engineering made structures like the tower possible. Jean-Claude knows some of the names. Studied some of them in school, years ago. But mostly they are just letters carved into iron. Permanent recognition for temporary men. All of them are dead now. The youngest died decades ago. But their names remain, elevated above Paris, part of the tower's structure. Gustave Eiffel chose these names himself. Wanted to honor the men whose discoveries made his work possible. This is appropriate. Everything builds on what came before. The tower stands because of mathematics developed centuries earlier. Jean-Claude maintains it using tools and techniques inherited from those who worked before him. Continuity. Everything is continuity. He continues his inspection. At the north corner, he finds what he is looking for: a small section of railing where two bolts have worked themselves slightly loose. Not dangerous. Not yet. But requiring attention before they become dangerous. He marks the location with chalk. Will report it to Monsieur Rousseau. Someone will tighten the bolts this afternoon. The problem will be prevented from becoming a problem. By 8:30, his circuit is complete. He has found 3 minor issues. All documented. All will be addressed. This is the purpose of routine inspection, finding small problems before they become large ones. He radios his report to Monsieur Rousseau. Then he sits, takes an unscheduled break. Just 5 minutes. The morning sun is pleasant at this height, and he allows himself a moment to simply exist in the space. Below him, the Champ de Mars is still relatively empty. Too early for the main tourist crowds. But there are a few people, joggers circling the park, a man walking his dog, someone sitting alone on a bench with a book. Jean-Claude thinks about something he read once, years ago. About a man who jumped from the first platform in 1912. Not a suicide. An experiment. His name was Franz Reichelt. He was a tailor, an inventor. He had designed a parachute suit, a wearable parachute that he believed would save pilots from falling aircraft. He tested it by jumping from the first platform of the Eiffel Tower. The parachute did not open. Reichelt fell 73 meters and died on impact. Jean-Claude remembers seeing photographs of this in the archive. The man standing on the railing, wearing his bulky suit, preparing to jump. Spectators watching. Cameras recording. And then the fall. The failure. The tower has witnessed many things in 96 years. Celebrations, proposals, suicides, experiments. It stands, neutral, allowing humans to use it however they choose. It does not judge. It simply exists. Jean-Claude finishes his break. Returns to work. His next assignment is to check the fire station. The tower has its own small fire station on the first platform, staffed 24 hours a day. 2 firefighters on duty at all times, ready to respond to any emergency within the structure. This seems excessive to some people. The tower is made of iron. Iron does not burn. But there are restaurants, gift shops, electrical systems. Things that can catch fire. And at 330 meters tall, with thousands of visitors daily, the potential for disaster requires preparation. Jean-Claude enters the fire station. The firefighters on duty are playing cards. They look up, nod. Everyone knows everyone at the tower. The maintenance crew. The elevator operators. The firefighters. The postal workers. They are a small community within the larger monument. Routine inspection, Jean-Claude says. The senior firefighter gestures around the small space. Everything is as it should be. Jean-Claude checks anyway. This is his job. The fire extinguishers are properly charged. The hoses are neatly coiled. The emergency equipment is in place. Everything is correct. He signs their logbook, a different logbook from the main maintenance one, but serving the same purpose. Documentation. Proof of inspection. Continuity of care. Quiet shift. Jean-Claude asks. Always quiet, the firefighter replies. We have been here 6 months. The most exciting thing that happened was a false alarm from a kitchen smoke detector. This is good. Quiet is good. The tower should be boring. Routine. Safe. Jean-Claude thanks them, leaves, continues his rounds. By 10 o'clock, the platform is becoming crowded with tourists. Jean-Claude moves among them, invisible in his coveralls, carrying his clipboard and tools. He is part of the infrastructure. Part of what makes the tower function. A tour guide nearby is explaining something about the tower's structural design. The lattice structure is approximately 60% empty space, the guide says in English. This was intentional. By making the tower mostly air, the wind passes through it rather than pushing against it. This is why the tower can withstand wind speeds of up to 220 kilometers per hour. Jean-Claude knows this. The tower is designed to breathe. The iron is arranged in an open lattice that lets wind flow through. Solid walls would create resistance, pressure, stress. But the open design allows the tower to survive even the most violent storms. There have been storms, over the years. Winds strong enough to bend trees and tear roofs from buildings. But the tower stands through them all, swaying slightly, flexing, accommodating the force rather than fighting it. Good engineering is about understanding forces and working with them, not against them. Jean-Claude continues his inspection. Checking, observing, documenting. At 11:30, he finds something unusual. Scratched into a small section of railing, barely visible, are initials and a date, PM 1923. 62 years ago. Someone stood here, at this exact spot, and carved their initials into the iron. Perhaps a worker. Perhaps a visitor who managed to deface the monument despite the rules. Impossible to know now. But the initials remain. Outlasting whoever carved them. Part of the tower's hidden history. The unofficial marks left by humans passing through. Jean-Claude does not report this. It is old damage. Harmless now. And there is something touching about it, someone in 1923, marking their presence, their moment. Now dead, probably. But their initials remain. The tower remembers, in its way. Holds all the marks made upon it. The intended ones and the accidental ones. The official and the unofficial. At noon, Jean-Claude breaks for lunch. Baguette, coffee, apple. The break room is busy today. Someone mentions that there was a bicycle race down the stairs once. A journalist, in 1923, rode a bicycle down from the first platform to ground level. A publicity stunt. The tower has seen many stunts over the years. People trying to climb the outside of the tower. People parachuting from it. People doing things the tower was not designed for but tolerates anyway. The tower is patient with human foolishness. After lunch, Jean-Claude is reassigned. Elevator inspection. West leg. He descends to the basement level, enters the elevator machinery room. This is where the original hydraulic systems are housed, massive cylinders containing the pistons that drive the elevators up and down. The elevators are remarkable pieces of 19th century engineering. The original system, designed by Eiffel's engineers, used water pressure from the Seine River. Water was pumped from the river, pressurized, and used to push the enormous pistons that lifted the elevator cars. When the elevator descended, the water pressure was released. The system has been modified over the years. Electric pumps now provide the pressure, rather than direct pumping from the river. But the basic mechanism remains the same. The same cylinders. The same pistons. Technology from 1889, still functioning in 1985. Jean-Claude inspects the cylinders carefully, looking for leaks, for rust, for any sign of deterioration. The hydraulic fluid is checked monthly by specialists, but he looks anyway. Everything is his concern. The machinery room is loud when the elevators are running. The sound of hydraulic pressure, of metal moving against metal, of enormous weight being lifted and lowered. But there is rhythm to it. The elevators run on schedule, each car following its programmed sequence. Up, pause, down, pause, up again. Thousands of times per day. Jean-Claude thinks about all the journeys these elevators have made. 96 years of operation. Millions of rides. Millions of passengers lifted from ground level to first platform, from first to second, carrying their excitement, their fear of heights, their cameras, and guidebooks. The elevators are more than machinery. They are part of the tower's purpose. Without them, most visitors could not experience the view. The tower would be admired from below, but not from within. By 2 o'clock, the inspection is complete. The cylinders are sound. The system functions as designed. Jean-Claude fills out the inspection form, signs it, files it. His afternoon assignment is paint touch-up work. Small areas on the first platform that show wear. Not full panels, just spots where the paint has been scratched or chipped by the daily flow of thousands of visitors. He works slowly, carefully. Each touch-up must match the surrounding paint exactly. The same shade. The same texture. The work is almost invisible when done correctly. That is the goal, invisible repair. Perfect maintenance that shows no sign of having occurred. At 3:30, he finishes. Cleans his brush. The ritual of cleaning, performed thousands of times, never shortened, never rushed. 12 minutes. Always 12 minutes. He descends. Signs out. 4:15, the day is complete. Outside, a street performer is juggling near the tower's base. A crowd watches, applauds. Children laugh. Life continues around the tower witnessing it all, saying nothing. Jean-Claude walks to the metro. The Tuesday evening crowd is the same as Monday's crowd. The same people, or different people, but performing the same routine. Everyone has their rhythm. Their daily pattern. The train carries him home. The city passes in the darkness of the tunnel. At home, Marie is preparing dinner. The smell of chicken again. Rosemary. The familiar comfort of routine. How is the tower, she asks. Still standing, he replies. Their small joke. Their ritual. The same words, carrying the same meaning, creating the same small moment of connection. After dinner, Jean-Claude reads the newspaper. There is a small article about plans to install new lighting on the tower for the centennial. For more years. The tower will be 100. Jean-Claude will be 51. Still young enough to work. Old enough to have been doing this for 21 years. The tower will continue past his retirement. Will continue past his death. Will stand for as long as humans maintain it. And humans will maintain it, because it has become essential. Part of Paris. Part of the world's understanding of what Paris is. In bed, in darkness, Jean-Claude thinks about Franz Reichelt. About the man standing on the railing in 1912. About the moment before the jump. The certainty that his invention would work. The confidence. The fatal error. The tower witnessed his death. Held his body until it was removed. Then continued standing. Continues still. The tower outlasts everyone. The scientists whose names are carved on it. The workers who built it. The workers who maintain it. Everyone dies. The tower remains. This is not sad. This is simply true. The tower is larger than individual lives. This is its purpose. To be permanent when everything else is temporary. Jean-Claude's breathing slows. Sleep comes. Tomorrow he will return. Wednesday will bring new assignments. Paint, or inspection, or repair. The work will continue. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, the tower endures. In the endurance, there is peace. At the tower, the logbook receives his signature. 23 Avril 1985. 5:42, Wednesday becomes official. Recorded. Part of the continuous record. Monsieur Rousseau assigns him to stairway maintenance. Second platform access. This means checking the structural integrity of the stairs themselves, the iron treads, the railings, the connections between steps and framework. The stairs to the second platform number exactly 1,792 steps from ground level. Not as famous as the total count to the summit, 1,665, but still significant. Still requiring attention. Jean-Claude begins climbing, but this time he is not simply passing through. He is examining. Every 50th step, he stops, kneels, inspects the connections. The bolts that hold the tread to the framework. The welds that support the weight of thousands of climbing feet. The stairs are surprisingly worn. More worn than the platforms, more worn than many other parts of the tower. This makes sense, people use the stairs differently than they use platforms. On the platforms, they distribute themselves, spread out, move randomly. On the stairs, they follow the same path. Step on the same treads. Create patterns of wear through repetition. Jean-Claude marks 3 steps that show excessive wear. Not dangerous yet, but approaching the point where they will need reinforcement or replacement. Monsieur Rousseau will review the marks, schedule the necessary work. By 8 o'clock, Jean-Claude has climbed to the second platform, inspecting as he goes. His legs are tired. This is more work than usual climbing, the constant stopping and kneeling adding effort. At the second platform, he takes a brief rest. 5 minutes. The morning is bright now, sunlight streaming across the city. From this height, 115 meters, Paris looks like a model of itself. Miniature. Precise. Beautiful in its patterns. The first platform is at 57 meters. The second platform is here, at 115 meters. The third platform is at 276 meters. These are the 3 heights that define the tower's vertical geography. 3 stages of ascent. 3 different perspectives on the city below. Jean-Claude knows these heights intimately. Has stood at each of them hundreds of times. But the view never quite becomes routine. Each height offers something different. At 57 meters, the city still feels close, accessible. At 115 meters, it begins to abstract. At 276 meters, it becomes landscape rather than place. He returns to work. His next assignment is to inspect the southern leg's foundation access. This requires descending back to ground level, then going beneath the tower into the maintenance passages. As he descends, he thinks about something he read once. About a man named Count de Lambert who, in 1909, flew an airplane under the tower's arch. The tower had been standing for 20 years. Aviation was still experimental, dangerous. Lambert flew his fragile aircraft between the tower's legs, passing underneath the structure, threading his plane through the gap. It seems impossible. The arches are wide, 26 meters across at the base, where each leg covers a square area of 26 meters by 26 meters, but still, flying a primitive aircraft through them requires precision that seems reckless. Or brave. Perhaps both. The tower has witnessed many acts of human daring. People testing themselves against its height, its structure, its presence. The tower simply stands through all of it, allowing these dramas to unfold around and within it. Jean-Claude reaches ground level. Signs in with Monsieur Rousseau for the foundation access. This is protocol. Whenever a worker enters the underground maintenance areas, it must be logged. Safety requires knowing who is where. He descends into the passages beneath the southern leg. The space is cool, dim. The smell of concrete and earth. These passages exist for maintenance access to the foundations, to the elevator machinery, to the infrastructure that visitors never see. Jean-Claude inspects the foundation access points. Checks for water intrusion. This close to the Seine, groundwater is always a concern. The drainage systems are functioning properly. The sump pumps are operational. Everything is as it should be. While he works, he thinks about the tower's weight. The total structure weighs 10,100 tons. But the metal framework itself, the pure iron structure, the lattice of beams and girders, weighs only 7,300 tons. The remaining weight is elevators, staircases, restaurants, shops, all the additions made over the years. 7,300 tons of iron, resting on 4 foundation blocks. The weight distributed so efficiently that the pressure on the ground is minimal. Less than a person standing on 1 foot. Engineering that transforms massive weight into gentle pressure. Jean-Claude emerges from the foundation passages at 10 o'clock. The morning above ground is busy now. Tourists everywhere. The daily influx of visitors, arriving in waves, flowing toward the elevators and stairs. He reports to Monsieur Rousseau. The foundation access is secure. No issues found. Good, Monsieur Rousseau says. Next assignment, antenna platform. Inspection. The antenna platform. The very top of the tower. Above the public observation deck, above everything. This is rare work. Jean-Claude has been assigned to the antenna platform perhaps 6 times in 17 years. He climbs. The stairs seem longer today, his legs still tired from the morning's inspection work. But he continues. 1 step, then another, then another. The rhythm returns. The meditation of climbing. At the antenna platform, Jean-Claude finds himself in a space that few people ever see. This is the tower's summit, not the public platform, but the technical platform where the broadcasting equipment is housed. The antenna itself was installed in 1957. It added 20 meters to the tower's height, bringing the total from the original 300 meters to 320 meters. Radio and television transmission. The tower continuing its role as a communications platform, just as it had been used for radio since the early 1900s. The antenna is maintained by specialists, not by maintenance workers like Jean-Claude. But the platform itself, the structure that supports the antenna, is his responsibility. He inspects the platform carefully. The metal is exposed to more extreme weather here than anywhere else on the tower. Wind, rain, ice, sun, all of it more intense at this height. The paint must be perfect. The structural connections must be sound. Everything is in good condition. The specialists do their work well. From here, from the absolute summit of the tower, Paris is barely visible. It is too far below, too abstracted by distance. The view becomes about sky more than city. Clouds. Light. The curve of the horizon. Jean-Claude allows himself 1 minute to simply stand here. To experience the height. To feel the wind, stronger at this altitude than anywhere below. To exist, briefly, at the highest point of the most famous structure in Paris. Then he returns to work. Completes his inspection. Documents his findings. By noon, he is descending again. His legs are heavy now. The day has involved more climbing than usual. But the work is complete. Lunch is in the break room. Baguette, coffee, apple. Marcel is there, and Philippe, and several others. They discuss the upcoming May Day holiday. A long weekend. For days away from the tower. Jean-Claude looks forward to it. Not desperately. Not with great anticipation. But with quiet appreciation. For days of different rhythms. Then the return to saneness. After lunch, he is assigned to paint inventory. The storage room where paint supplies are kept needs to be organized, counted, documented. This is indoor work. Desk work, almost. Jean-Claude spends the afternoon in the supply room. Counting cans of paint. Checking expiration dates. Paint does not last forever, and old paint must be discarded. Recording inventory numbers in the logbook. It is boring work. Deeply, profoundly boring. But it is necessary work. The paint must be tracked. Supplies must be maintained. Order must be preserved. He thinks, while counting paint cans, about a story he heard once. About a man named Victor Lustig who, in 1925, successfully sold the Eiffel Tower to a scrap metal dealer. It was a con. Lustig posed as a government official, claimed the tower was being demolished, and sold it for scrap. The dealer paid him. Believed him. Only later discovered it was fraud. Lustig escaped, then returned to Paris and sold the tower again to a different dealer. The same con, performed twice, both times successfully. The tower was never in danger of being scrapped in 1925. It had already become permanent, essential. But Lustig exploited the tower's controversial history, the fact that it had once been scheduled for demolition. Used people's willingness to believe the temporary could become permanent and the permanent could become temporary. The tower stood through it all. Unaware of being sold. Continuing to stand. Continuing to function. Jean-Claude finds this story amusing. The tower cannot be sold because the tower cannot be owned, not really. It belongs to Paris. To France. To everyone who sees it and recognizes it and understands what it represents. You can paint it. You can maintain it. You can climb it. But you cannot own it. By 3:30, the inventory is complete. Every paint can counted. Every tool accounted for. The documentation is perfect. Jean-Claude files the inventory report, signs out, leaves the tower. Outside, a film crew is setting up equipment. Another movie, probably. The tower appears in films constantly, has appeared in over 1,000 motion pictures since cinema was invented. More than 1,000 different directors, choosing the tower as backdrop, as symbol, as icon. Jean-Claude has never seen most of these films. Does not particularly want to. He sees the tower every day. Knows it more intimately than any film could show. The camera captures the exterior. Jean-Claude knows the interior. The hidden spaces. The maintenance passages. The unglamorous reality of keeping the symbol standing. He walks to the metro. Descends underground. The Wednesday evening crowd is the same as every evening crowd. People tired from work. People ready to be home. The train carries him through the darkness. Above, the city continues its daily life. The tower stands. The tourists photograph it. The lights will come on at dusk, 20,000 bulbs illuminating the structure against the darkening sky. Jean-Claude will not see this. He will be home by then. Having dinner with Marie. Reading the newspaper. Preparing for tomorrow. Thursday will come. Then Friday. Then the weekend. Then Monday again. The cycle continues. The tower continues. Jean-Claude continues. At home, Marie asks, "How is the tower?" Still standing, Jean-Claude replies. Their ritual. Their small moment of connection. The same words, carrying layers of meaning that only they understand. After dinner, Jean-Claude sits by the window. The evening is mild. Spring in Paris. The city is alive with lights and movement and the sound of distant traffic. Somewhere out there, the tower stands. Silent. Permanent. Waiting for tomorrow when Jean-Claude will return and continue the work of maintenance. The boring, essential, endless work. In winter, the tower faces different challenges. Ice can accumulate on the iron lattice, not much, but enough to add weight, to create hazards for anyone working on the structure. In severe winters, the ice must be removed manually. Workers chipping ice from iron, ensuring the tower remains safe, functional, accessible. Jean-Claude has done this work. In January, in February, when the cold is bitter and the iron is painfully cold to touch. Chipping ice. Clearing pathways. Maintaining the tower even when the tower itself seems to resist maintenance. But that is winter. This is spring. The challenges now are different. Rain rather than ice. Wind rather than cold. Each season brings its own requirements. Jean-Claude's eyes grow heavy. Sleep is approaching. Tomorrow he will wake at 4:47. Will make coffee. Will put on his coveralls. Will climb the tower's stairs and do whatever work is assigned. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, there is purpose. There is peace. There is the quiet satisfaction of maintaining something larger than oneself. The tower will stand tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. And Jean-Claude will be there, doing his small part to ensure the continuation. This is enough. This is everything. Thursday morning. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude wakes. The ritual is unchanged. Coffee, coveralls, the measured preparation for another day. At the tower, the logbook. 24 Avril 1985. 5:42, Thursday becomes part of the record. Another signature among thousands that came before, thousands that will follow. Monsieur Rousseau is reviewing construction records this morning. Old documents, bound in leather, stored in the climate-controlled archive room. He looks up when Jean-Claude enters. "Did you know," Monsieur Rousseau says, not looking up from the page, "that construction on the tower began on January 28, 1887? Jean-Claude did not know the exact date. He knew the year, the general time frame, but not the specific day. A Tuesday, Monsieur Rousseau continues. They broke ground on a Tuesday morning. And 26 months later, on March 31, 1889, it was complete. Also a Sunday. From first shovel of earth to final rivet, 26 months exactly. Jean-Claude considers this. 26 months to build something that has stood for 96 years and will stand for centuries more. The ratio seems impossible. So little time to create something so permanent. Your assignment today, Monsieur Rousseau says, closing the record book, is rivet inspection. East leg, first to second platform section. Rivet inspection. Jean-Claude nods. This is detailed work. Slow work. Every rivet must be examined for looseness, for corrosion, for metal fatigue. He gathers his tools. A small hammer for testing. A magnifying glass for close inspection. A notebook for documentation. The work requires no strength, only patience and attention. At 6:47, he begins climbing to the first platform. The morning is warmer today. Spring is progressing. Soon it will be May, then June, then summer. The tower will expand. Will grow at 6 inches. The cycle of seasons made visible in iron. Jean-Claude reaches the first platform, moves to the east leg, begins his inspection. The rivets here are original, driven in 1887 or 1888, during the tower's construction. They have held for 96 years. Will hold for 96 more, if properly maintained. Each rivet was installed hot. Jean-Claude knows this from the historical records. The rivets were heated to cherry red in portable forges at the construction site. Then, while still glowing with heat, they were driven through the pre-drilled holes and hammered into place. As they cooled, they contracted, pulling the metal plates together with enormous force. 2,500,000 rivets. Each one heated. Each one driven. Each one hammered while hot. The work must have been constant, forges burning, hammers ringing, the smell of hot metal filling the air. Jean-Claude taps each rivet with his small hammer. Listens to the sound. A solid rivet produces a clear, ringing tone. A loose rivet sounds dull, muted. His ear is trained now, after 17 years. He can hear the difference immediately. Tap. Ring. Solid. Tap. Ring. Solid. Tap. Ring. Solid. The rhythm is meditative. The morning passes. Jean-Claude works his way along the structural beams, testing each rivet, marking any that require attention. By 9:30, he has inspected 200 rivets. Found 3 that are slightly loose. Not dangerously loose, but requiring tightening. He marks them with chalk, documents their location in his notebook. Break time. 8 minutes. Half a cup of coffee. He sits on the platform, looking out over the city. The tower has served many purposes over 96 years. Monument, observation platform, radio transmitter, meteorological station. But during the First World War, it served another purpose, military intelligence. Jean-Claude read about this once. The tower's radio antenna intercepted enemy communications. German military transmissions. In 1917, the tower intercepted the famous Zimmermann telegram, a coded message from Germany to Mexico, proposing a military alliance against the United States. The interception and decoding of that message helped bring America into the war. The tower, standing neutral above the battlefields, listening to the electronic whispers of armies. Serving France not through action but through patient observation. This probably saved the tower's existence. During the war, there had been proposals to dismantle it for scrap metal. The iron could be melted down, used for weapons, for vehicles, for the war effort. 10,000 tons of iron, available for the taking. But the tower was too useful for intelligence gathering. Too valuable as a communications platform. So it stood. Survived the war. Continued. Utility, again. Always utility saving the tower. Never beauty alone. Jean-Claude returns to work. The rivets continue. Tap, ring, solid. Tap, ring, solid. A tour group passes. The guide is explaining the tower's paint history. The tower has been repainted 19 times since its construction, the guide says. And it has been 19 different colors. Red brown, ochre yellow, chestnut brown, yellow brown. Each era choosing its own shade. 19 different colors. Jean-Claude had not realized it was that many. He knew the color had changed over the decades, but 19 distinct schemes seems excessive. The tower reinventing its appearance every few years while the structure beneath remains constant. The current brown, Eiffel Tower brown, official since 1968, is the 19th color. Perhaps there will be a 20th someday. Perhaps the centennial in 1989 will bring a new shade. Or perhaps this brown will continue. Become permanent the way the tower itself became permanent. Jean-Claude continues his inspection. By noon, he has examined 500 rivets. Found 7 that require tightening. This is a good ratio. 7 out of 500. The structure is sound. Lunch is in the break room. Baguette, coffee, apple. Marcel is absent today, a rare occurrence. Illness, perhaps. Or perhaps a family matter. Marcel is reliable, like Jean-Claude. His absence is notable. After lunch, Jean-Claude continues his rivet inspection. The afternoon section of the east leg. The work is identical to the morning work. Tap, listen, mark. Tap, listen, mark. The afternoon sun is warm now. Jean-Claude can feel the iron heating beneath his hands. The metal absorbs the sunlight, stores it, radiates it back. By mid-afternoon, the iron will be noticeably warm to the touch. As he works, he thinks about the iron itself. The source of these beams, these plates, these rivets. The iron came from Pompeii, in northeastern France. The forge there produced iron of exceptional quality, low in impurities, resistant to oxidation. Gustave Eiffel specified Pompeii iron for a reason. He tested it. Measured its iron oxide content. Verified that it would resist rust, would maintain its strength over decades. Good materials, properly chosen, properly installed, properly maintained. This is the foundation of longevity. The tower has lasted because every decision was made carefully. Nothing was left to chance. Jean-Claude's work continues. Tap, ring, solid. The afternoon passes. The sun moves across the sky. The tower's shadow rotates slowly around its base, like the hand of an enormous sundial. At 3 o'clock, he completes his assigned section. 500 rivets in the morning. 500 in the afternoon. 1,000 rivets total. 14 marked for tightening. 14 out of 1,000. The tower is 96 years old. The rivets are 96 years old. That 14 out of 1,000 require attention after 96 years speaks to the quality of the original installation. Jean-Claude descends. Reports to Monsieur Rousseau. The rivet inspection is complete. 14 require tightening. Locations documented. Good work, Monsieur Rousseau says. He makes notes in his maintenance schedule. The rivets will be tightened tomorrow or the next day. The small problems will be prevented from becoming large problems. Jean-Claude stores his tools. Fills out his daily report. Signs out at 3:30. Outside, the afternoon is beautiful. Warm, sunny, the kind of spring day that makes Paris feel like the most fortunate city in the world. The tower rises above him, solid, permanent, its iron glowing slightly in the sunlight. Somewhere within that lattice are the 14 loose rivets he found today. Somewhere within it are the 3 loose bolts from yesterday. The worn stairs from Wednesday. The aging paint from every day. All of it documented. All of it scheduled for repair. All of it part of the continuous maintenance that keeps the tower standing. Jean-Claude walks to the metro. Descends underground. The train carries him home. At home, Marie is preparing dinner. Fish tonight. With lemon and herbs. The smell fills the apartment. "How is the tower?" she asks. "Still standing," Jean-Claude replies. Their ritual. Their small joke that has become something more than a joke. An acknowledgement. A recognition of the work Jean-Claude does. The boring, essential work of maintaining permanence. After dinner, Jean-Claude sits by the window. The evening is long, the sun sets later now as spring progresses toward summer. He watches the light fade slowly from the sky. Tomorrow is Friday. The last day of the work week. Then the weekend. Then Monday again. The cycle continues. Jean-Claude thinks about the construction workers who built the tower. 300 men, working in shifts, in all weather, for 26 months. Their names are recorded in Gustave Eiffel's employment records. All 300 of them, documented, preserved. Most of them are dead now, of course. Even the youngest would be over 100 years old. They built the tower, lived their lives, died. But their work remains. The iron they assembled. The rivets they drove hot. The structure they created. Jean-Claude is doing similar work, in reverse. They assembled. He maintains. They created. He preserves. Different tasks, same purpose, ensuring the tower continues. In bed, in darkness, Jean-Claude's mind is quiet. Tomorrow he will wake at 4:47. Will make coffee. Will sign the logbook. Will receive his assignment. Will climb the stairs and do whatever work is required. The tower will be waiting. The tower is always waiting. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, there is purpose. There is meaning. There is the quiet satisfaction of work done well, day after day, without recognition, without drama. Just maintenance. Just preservation. Just the boring, essential work of keeping something standing. The tower stands because people like Jean-Claude show up at 5:42 in the morning and tap rivets with small hammers and mark the ones that need tightening. This is enough. This is everything. Jean-Claude's breathing slows. Sleep approaches. Tomorrow is Friday. One more day. Then rest. Then the cycle begins again. The tower will stand tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. And Jean-Claude will be there. Maintaining. Preserving. Continuing. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, the tower endures. In the endurance, there is peace. Friday morning. The alarm sounds at 4:47. Jean-Claude wakes. The last day of the work week. The rhythm is familiar. Comforting. Coffee. Coveralls. The ritual preparation. Everything in its proper order, performed without conscious thought. At the tower, the logbook. 25 Avril 1985. 5:42, Friday is recorded. The week nears completion. Monsieur Rousseau is examining the maintenance schedule when Jean-Claude arrives. He looks up, nods. Second platform today, he says. Door and window mechanisms. the temperature changes are affecting them again. Jean-Claude understands immediately. As the tower expands and contracts with temperature, growing in the heat, shrinking in the cold, the metal framework shifts slightly. The shifts are tiny, measured in millimeters. But they are enough to affect the mechanisms attached to the structure. Doors that fit perfectly in winter become tight in summer. Windows that close smoothly in cool weather stick when the iron expands in heat. This is normal. Expected. But it still requires adjustment. The mechanisms must be calibrated to accommodate the tower's breathing. To work properly, whether the tower is 6 inches taller or 6 inches shorter. Jean-Claude gathers his tools. Lubricating oil. Wrenches. Screwdrivers. A small level for checking alignment. Everything organized, ready. At 6:47, he begins climbing to the second platform. The stairs are familiar. His body knows the rhythm. The counting helps. 50 steps. 100. 150. The morning is cool but will warm quickly. April is unpredictable, cold mornings, warm afternoons, the transition between seasons creating instability in the weather. Jean-Claude reaches the second platform at 7:20. The doors and windows here serve the restaurant area, the gift shops, the service spaces that tourists rarely think about. These doors must open smoothly, must close securely, must function perfectly despite the tower's constant expansion and contraction. He begins with the service door to the kitchen area. Opens it, closes it, feels the resistance. The door is sticking slightly at the top corner. The iron frame has expanded just enough to create friction. Jean-Claude adjusts the hinges. Tiny adjustments, fractions of a millimeter. Then he tests the door again. It swings smoothly now. He makes a note in his documentation. As he works, he remembers something he read in the tower's historical archive. During the 1889 Universal Exposition, the event the tower was built for, there was a newspaper printed right here on the second platform. A small printing press, installed temporarily, producing a daily newspaper called Le Figaro de la Tour. The newspaper reported on the exposition, on the tower itself, on the visitors and events. Each edition was printed 300 meters above Paris, then distributed to visitors as a souvenir. Jean-Claude finds this remarkable. The tower, barely completed, already being used for purposes beyond its intended function. Already proving itself useful in unexpected ways. The newspaper was temporary, it lasted only for the 6 months of the exposition. But the idea was innovative. The tower as printing press platform. As distribution center. As something more than just structure. He moves to the next door. The main entrance to the Jules Verne restaurant. This door is more complex, heavy wood and glass, requiring precise balance. It must open easily despite its weight, must close securely despite the wind that constantly buffets the platform. Jean-Claude tests the door. Opens it, closes it, feels for any binding or sticking. The mechanism is smooth. This door was recently serviced, probably last month. It requires no adjustment today. He moves on. Window by window, door by door. Testing, adjusting, lubricating. The work is methodical, repetitive, necessary. At 9:30, he takes his break. 8 minutes. Half a cup of coffee. The morning is warming now, as predicted. The iron around him is beginning to heat in the sunlight. He looks out over Paris. The city is fully awake now. Traffic moving on the streets below. The Seine busy with boat traffic. Life continuing its daily patterns. Jean-Claude thinks about another fact he learned recently. The tower is closed to the public very rarely. In 96 years, it has been completely closed only a handful of times. Once during each World War, for safety. Once during a major storm. A few times for significant structural work. But otherwise, it has been open every day. Every single day for 96 years. Visitors arriving, experiencing the tower, descending, departing. The flow never truly stops. This means the maintenance must happen around the visitors. Jean-Claude and his colleagues must work while tourists walk past them, photograph around them, occasionally ask them questions. The tower cannot close for maintenance. The maintenance must adapt to the tower's schedule, not the other way around. Jean-Claude has become skilled at being invisible. At working in spaces crowded with tourists without disrupting their experience. This is part of the job. Part of the professionalism required. He finishes his coffee. Returns to work. The windows continue. Each one must be checked. The expanding iron affects window frames just as it affects doors. A window that slides smoothly in January may stick in July. Jean-Claude adjusts the mechanisms now, in April, preparing for the summer expansion that will come in June and July. By noon, he has serviced 15 doors and 30 windows. All functioning properly now. All calibrated for the seasonal changes ahead. Lunch is in the break room. Baguette, coffee, apple. The usual. Marcel has returned today. Whatever kept him away yesterday has been resolved. He nods to Jean-Claude but does not explain his absence. This is appropriate. Personal matters remain personal. After lunch, Jean-Claude receives a new assignment. Archive room. Climate control inspection. The archive room is located in a small building at the tower's base. It contains the historical records. Construction documents, maintenance logs going back to 1889, photographs, engineering drawings. Everything that documents the tower's existence. The room must be climate controlled. Temperature and humidity carefully regulated to preserve the aging paper and photographs. Jean-Claude's task is to verify the systems are functioning correctly. He enters the archive room. The air is cool, dry. The smell of old paper and leather bindings. Monsieur Rousseau is here, reviewing a document. The climate control, Jean-Claude says. Yes. Check the readings. The humidity has been fluctuating. Jean-Claude examines the monitoring equipment. The temperature is stable, 18 degrees Celsius, exactly as specified. But the humidity is slightly high. 45% when it should be 40%. He checks the dehumidifier. The filter is clogged. A simple problem. He replaces the filter with a clean one, resets the system. The humidity will normalize within a few hours. While he works, Jean-Claude glances at the documents Monsieur Rousseau is reviewing. They are old newspapers. Yellowed, fragile. From 1925, Monsieur Rousseau says, noticing Jean-Claude's interest. The Citroën advertisement. Jean-Claude knows about this. From 1925 to 1934, the automobile manufacturer Citroën turned the tower into a giant billboard. They installed 250,000 light bulbs on the tower's surface, creating illuminated advertisements visible for 40 kilometers. The name Citroën spelled out in lights so large they could be seen from aircraft. It was garish. Commercial. Many people hated it. But it was also innovative. The tower as advertising platform. The tower generating revenue. The tower continuing to prove its utility. The lights were removed in 1934. But for 9 years, the tower advertised automobiles to all of Paris. Another unexpected use. Another way the tower adapted, survived, continued. They paid well, Monsieur Rousseau says. The money helped fund maintenance during difficult economic times. Utility. Again. The tower surviving through usefulness, through adaptation, through serving purposes its creator never imagined. Jean-Claude finishes the climate control repair. The archive room will maintain its proper humidity now. The historical records will be preserved. He leaves Monsieur Rousseau with the old newspapers and returns to his afternoon assignment. First platform. General inspection. This is the final task of the week. Walking the perimeter of the first platform, looking for anything that requires attention. Small problems. Early warning signs. Anything that might become significant if ignored. Jean-Claude walks slowly, observing everything. His eyes are trained now. They notice details. A bolt that is fractionally less tight than it should be. A paint chip revealing metal beneath. A weld showing the faintest discoloration that might indicate stress. As he walks, a tour guide passes with a group. The guide is explaining visitor statistics. The tower receives an average of 25,000 visitors every single day, the guide says. Some days fewer. Some days more. But averaged across the year, 25,000 people per day come to experience the tower. 25,000 people. Every day. Jean-Claude tries to imagine this number. Tries to picture 25,000 individuals, each one with their own thoughts, their own reasons for visiting, their own experience of the tower. It is impossible to imagine. The number is too large. Becomes abstract. But Jean-Claude sees the evidence of those 25,000 daily visitors. The wear on the stairs. The smudges on the glass. The erosion of the most touched surfaces. 25,000 sets of hands, 25,000 pairs of feet, day after day after day. This is why maintenance never ends. This is why Jean-Claude will return Monday morning and begin again. The tower serves millions. The millions create wear. The wear requires attention. He continues his inspection. At 3 o'clock, he completes his circuit. Found 2 minor issues. Both documented. Both will be addressed next week. Jean-Claude descends to ground level. Stores his tools. Fills out his final report of the week. Signs out at 3:30. The week is complete. 5 days. 5 signatures in the logbook. Dozens of tasks completed. Hundreds of rivets tested. Dozens of doors and windows adjusted. Countless small actions that, collectively, keep the tower functioning. Outside, the Friday afternoon is warm. The weekend ahead. 2 days away from the tower. 2 days of different rhythms. But the tower will continue. Saturday crews will work. Sunday crews will work. The maintenance never stops, even when Jean-Claude stops. He walks to the metro. The Friday evening crowd is larger than other evenings. People eager for the weekend. Tired from their weeks. Ready for rest. Jean-Claude is also ready for rest. But his tiredness is satisfying. The good tiredness of work completed. Of small tasks done well. At home, Marie is preparing dinner. Something special for Friday: beef, vegetables, wine. The weekend beginning with a small celebration of the week survived. "How is the tower?" she asks. Still standing, Jean-Claude replies. Their ritual. Their Friday ritual that acknowledges the week's completion. After dinner, Jean-Claude sits by the window. The evening is long, the sun setting slowly. He watches the light fade from gold to orange to purple to blue. Tomorrow is Saturday. Sunday follows. 2 days of rest. Then Monday returns, and the cycle begins again. The tower stands through it all. Through weekdays and weekends. Through seasons and years. Through the daily arrival of 25,000 visitors and the nightly departure of the same. Jean-Claude will return Monday. Will sign the logbook. Will receive his assignment. Will climb the stairs and do whatever work is required. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, the tower endures. In the endurance, there is meaning. There is purpose. There is peace. Jean-Claude's eyes grow heavy. Sleep approaches. The week is complete. The tower stands. Monday will come. And Jean-Claude will be there. Maintaining. Preserving. Continuing the work. The boring, essential, endless work of keeping something standing. This is enough. This is everything. Saturday morning. No alarm. Jean-Claude wakes naturally at 6 o'clock. His body, uncertain without the 4:47 ritual, finds a different rhythm on weekends. Marie is still sleeping. The apartment is quiet. Jean-Claude makes coffee, sits at the kitchen window, drinks it slowly. His day off. His time away from the tower. But this Saturday is different. Something pulls at him. A restlessness. A desire he cannot quite name. After breakfast, he tells Marie he is going for a walk. She smiles, understanding without needing explanation. After 14 years of marriage, she knows him. Jean-Claude dresses in his weekend clothes. Leaves the apartment. Descends to the street. His feet know where they are going before his mind consciously decides. Toward the metro. Toward Trocadero. Toward the tower. He is not working today. But he wants to see it. Wants to experience it as a visitor, not as maintenance. Wants to understand what the 25,000 daily visitors feel when they arrive at the tower's base and look up. At Trocadero, he emerges into a bright Saturday morning. The plaza is already filling with tourists. Families. Couples. Tour groups. All of them moving toward the tower with anticipation, with excitement, with cameras ready. Jean-Claude joins the flow. Walks with the crowd toward the base. The tower rises above him. From this angle, looking straight up, it seems impossible. A structure this tall, this massive, built with 19th century technology. Built in 26 months. Built without computers, without modern cranes, without any of the tools that would be considered essential for such construction today. The tower cost 7,800,000 gold francs to build. Jean-Claude read this in the archive records. In 1889, that was approximately $1.5 million American dollars. An enormous sum for the time. But Gustave Eiffel was smart. He financed much of it himself, knowing the tower would generate revenue through ticket sales during the exposition. He was correct. The tower earned back its construction costs within the first year of operation. Became profitable almost immediately. Has remained profitable ever since. Utility. Practicality. Function. Always these things ensuring the tower's survival. Jean-Claude stands at the base, looking up through the latticework. The iron forms patterns against the blue sky. Geometric. Precise. Beautiful in a way he rarely allows himself to acknowledge. He purchases a ticket. The line is long, Saturdays always are, but he waits patiently. Waiting does not bother him. Waiting is part of life. When his turn comes, he enters the elevator. The north leg elevator. The same one whose cables he inspected 2 weeks ago. The same hydraulic system he has examined hundreds of times. But today he is a passenger. Today he rises without working. The elevator car can hold up to 92 people when fully loaded. Today it carries approximately 70 tourists pressed together, chattering in multiple languages, pointing out the window as Paris begins to shrink below them. Jean-Claude says nothing. Simply rides. Feels the smooth ascent, the slight sway of the car. The machinery he knows so intimately, experienced from the other side. The elevator stops at the first platform. Most passengers disembark. Jean-Claude continues to the second platform. He wants to see it from a visitor's perspective. Wants to stand where he usually works and feel what others feel. At the second platform, he steps out. The view is remarkable. It is always remarkable, but somehow more so today. Paris spread below like a map. The Seine threading through it. The city's geometry visible from this height. A tour guide is speaking to a group nearby. Jean-Claude listens. More than 250 million people have visited the Eiffel Tower since it opened in 1889, the guide says. 250 million individuals, each one experiencing this view, this structure, this monument. 250 million. The number is incomprehensible. Jean-Claude has been coming here for 17 years. Has probably seen thousands of those 250 million visitors. But they are individuals to him, people passing through his workspace, occasionally acknowledging him, mostly ignoring him. 250 million people, and Jean-Claude knows none of them. But he helps maintain the structure that allows their experience. This is his contribution. Invisible but essential. He walks the perimeter of the second platform. The same route he walks during inspections. But today he is not inspecting. Today he is simply experiencing. He thinks about the construction workers who built this platform. During construction, no more than 250 workers were on site at any given time. The work was carefully coordinated, different crews working on different sections, everything timed to maximize efficiency while maintaining safety. 300 workers total over the course of construction. 250 maximum at any one time. And not one of them died during the building of the tower. An almost miraculous safety record for such a dangerous project. Jean-Claude feels a kinship with those workers. They built. He maintains. Different eras, same purpose. Same dedication to the structure. He continues walking. At the east side, he stops. Looks out toward where the sun rises each morning. The direction he faces most often during his work. The iron beneath his hand is warm. The Saturday sun heating the metal. By mid-afternoon, the tower will have expanded to its maximum height. Will be 6 inches taller than it was at dawn. But there is something else. He can feel the tower moving. Just slightly. A barely perceptible sway. The wind is moderate today. Not strong. But at this height, even moderate wind creates movement. The tower's top can move in a circle of 12 to 15 centimeters in strong winds. Today, the movement is less. Perhaps 5 centimeters. Perhaps 8. But it is there. The tower, alive to forces. Responding to wind, to temperature, to the physics that govern all structures. Moving but not failing. Flexible but not weak. Jean-Claude stands, hand on the warm iron, feeling the gentle sway. Feeling the tower breathe. This is what he maintains. Not just iron and paint and rivets, but this living structure. This responsive, adaptive monument that has stood for 96 years by being flexible rather than rigid. By accommodating forces rather than resisting them. He thinks about Gustav Eiffel. The man who designed this. Who calculated every force, every stress, every load. Who created something that would outlast him by generations. Eiffel had his apartment up there, above Jean-Claude. At the very summit. A private space where he conducted experiments, entertained distinguished guests, spent quiet evenings above the city he had transformed. Thomas Edison visited that apartment. The two engineers, one who harnessed electricity, one who mastered iron, meeting at the summit of human achievement. Discussing their work. Their discoveries. Their contributions to the age of industry. The apartment still exists. Still sits empty, preserved, waiting. A monument within a monument. Jean-Claude will never enter that apartment. It is not his place. But he maintains the structure that supports it. Ensures the tower stands so that Eiffel's apartment can continue existing, even empty, even unused. He stays on the platform for an hour. Just experiencing. Just being present. Around him, tourists come and go. Take their photographs. Express their wonder. 25,000 per day. 7 days per week. 52 weeks per year. Year after year after year. The flow never stops. The tower receives them all. Accommodates them all. And workers like Jean-Claude maintain the structure that makes this possible. They arrive before dawn. They climb the stairs. They scrape paint and test rivets and adjust door hinges and inspect cables. They do the boring, unglamorous work that keeps the spectacular experience possible. Eventually, Jean-Claude descends. Takes the elevator down, experiencing it as a passenger one more time. Feels the gentle deceleration as the car settles at ground level. He exits onto the plaza. The tower rises behind him. He turns, looks up one more time. Still standing. Will be standing tomorrow. Will be standing when Jean-Claude returns Monday morning at 5:42. He walks home. The afternoon is pleasant. Spring in Paris. The city alive with people enjoying the weekend. At home, Marie asks about his walk. I visited the tower, Jean-Claude says. As a tourist? As a tourist. Marie smiles. Understands. How is it? The same, Jean-Claude says. But different. Seeing it from the outside. Remembering why it matters. That evening, they have dinner together. Talk about small things. The week passed. The week ahead. Life continuing its rhythm. Later, Jean-Claude sits by the window. The sun setting. The city's lights beginning to glow. Somewhere out there, the tower is being illuminated. 20,000 bulbs creating the glow that makes the tower visible across Paris. He thinks about Monday. About returning to work. About signing the logbook at 5:42. About receiving his assignment. About climbing the stairs and doing whatever needs to be done. Panel painting. Rivet inspection. Cable checking. Door adjustment. The endless, necessary cycle of maintenance. The same, the same, the same. He used to worry that his work was meaningless. That the repetition meant insignificance. That being invisible meant not mattering. But today, experiencing the tower as a visitor, he understood differently. His work is the foundation of their experience. The 25,000 daily visitors can only marvel at the tower because people like Jean-Claude maintain it. Can only ride the elevators because someone inspects the cables. Can only trust the railings because someone tests the bolts. Invisibility is not insignificance. It is professionalism. It is competence. It is the work being done so well that no one needs to think about it. The tower stands because of boring work. Because of routine. Because of men who show up at 4:47 every morning and sign the logbook and climb the stairs and do their small part. Jean-Claude is one of many. One of 25 painters. One of perhaps 100 maintenance workers. One of thousands who have cared for the tower across 96 years. His contribution is small, but necessary. Like a single rivet. Meaningless alone. Essential as part of the whole. This is enough. This has always been enough. In bed, in darkness, Jean-Claude feels at peace. Tomorrow is Sunday. Rest. Preparation. Then Monday returns, and the work continues. The tower will be waiting. The tower is always waiting. And Jean-Claude will be there. Will sign the logbook. Will receive his assignment. Will maintain the structure that allows 250 million visitors, and millions more to come, to experience something extraordinary. The work is boring. The work is essential. The work is everything. Jean-Claude's breathing slows. Sleep comes gently. His final thought before sleep. The tower stands. Tomorrow it will stand. Monday it will stand. It stands because of boring work, done well, day after day after day. The same, the same, the same. In the sameness, there is beauty. There is purpose. There is meaning. The tower endures. The work continues. The cycle persists. This is enough. This is everything. This is peace.